to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I am your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better. And kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor. Because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
Let's go inside the mind of a 10-year-old.
I should have worn those earrings today. I like those earrings. Gabby has those awesome earrings. I need to ask her where she got those, but that's just what she would want me to do. I'll have Michaela ask her for me.
Buckle up, Sarah.
Yeah, but then Michaela will be like, why don't you just ask her yourself? That's just like Michaela.
Sarah, buckle up.
Michaela's such a great name. I wish I was called Michaela. There's like a dozen Sarahs in my class.
Hey, we're not hitting the road until you buckle up, honey.
Oh yeah, seatbelt. I forget sometimes because my brain is like busy, you know? I wonder if there's pizza at school today.
Sometimes it can be tough to get through to your kids, but it's not impossible. Always make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Remember, you have the keys, you have the power. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Uh-huh, okay.
Well,
we were building a bonfire, and I saw some, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Hey, guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. Waking up every day, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair to the car to get him to therapy on time, it's no small task between the doctors and the diagnosis, but nothing can disable this love. This is my big brother, my hero. He's part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. See, there's no time for tired. This starts again tomorrow. He'll be waiting for me. I wake up for him. I know he needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community, or call 877-333-5885. Caregiving Resource Center. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do. Oh, tell the world I see with an emoji to stop the bullies.
Know someone who's being bullied online? Send the witness emoji. It looks like an eye in a speech bubble, and it's in the symbol section near the clocks in your phone. You'll let the world know it isn't cool, and you'll let your friend know you care. Learn more about the witness emoji at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. Feedthepig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to mooch off your friends.
You gonna finish that grape?
You mean the one in my mouth? You don't need to stop buying the necessities.
What you're smelling is a natural musk.
Ew.
You don't need to be a medical test subject.
How do you feel?
Mostly okay. Sometimes, though.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman. Let's break for lunch.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
All right, deal. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? When a tornado is tearing through town? Or a hurricane strikes? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. And it's not always as simple as using your cell phone. That's why now is the time to take action. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
What are you talking about?
No, it's not him. There is only one more. There is only one more. That's it. One more.
Get a rest!
No!
They saw your team put up zero effort.
Wake up!
Remember in the old days, they used to have oxygen for them. Where's the oxygen?
Play like absolute just garbage.
This is the Sports Loudmouths.
Yay!
Man, can you keep it down? I'm trying to introduce here. With Errol Marks and Speedy Petey.
You're not even a has-been.
You're never was. You're never was. You're never was.
Shoot, 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 shoot. Is that a gun? Is that a gun shooting at us? June 28th. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Crazy as the NHL Draft is about to begin, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Sports Loudmouths. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speeder. Yes, he's scary. He's Pete. Speedy Petey. 631-672-3108 is the number to call. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com and listen to all the shows throughout the week. Game on, the Sports Loudmouths, the Wise Guys. You name it, we've got it. Check us out at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Speedy, what's up?
Two coaching shout-outs to give out today, one of which a guy we had on the show about a month ago, Stu Bickle. They made the finals, his team, Coachella. They lost in a tough 7-game series, but congratulations to him and his team on that season. And also a guy we had on years ago, Jay Johnson, back when he was with Arizona, now with LSU, now a national champion after 2 years there as LSU wins the College World Series, scoring 18 runs in the last game.
I remember when we interviewed him. So he was fantastic. Maybe we'll get him on the show.
Yeah, he's probably getting a lot of interview requests right now. Maybe we'll wait a month and then
let him come to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we interviewed him.
I know.
We were one of the first to interview this guy. So now he's a champion. You come on the show and express how much you love winning the championship. I am so happy for him as LSU wins a national championship. And, there we go. It is.
And we have to
crazy. get
some Jello shots for the interview after their 68,888
well, hold
they
on one
finished
second.
with.
Well, when we interview him, how are we going to send him Jello shots? Actually,
they should be sending the LSU student community should be sending him Jello shots at the rate that they put it up.
How about us sending us some Jello shots?
All right, you got that, Omaha? Send us some Jello shots.
Omaha. Oh man, it is crazy. It was a crazy weekend, man. This weather is terrible. It is terrible. It goes from cold to warm to humid to hot. I mean, I don't understand it. And then we get bad rain, storms, tornadoes, you name it. We get it. It's ridiculous. Did you see the tree that fell down, I think in Ronkonkoma?
Wow. No, I didn't.
Oh my God. I mean, it just missed the car by like a foot. It's crazy. And if it actually collided with that person, I think there were two kids in the car. They probably would have been dead.
Yeah.
It is crazy, man. I hate the weather. I just hate it.
Snug, there is no Jello shots in New Orleans because LSU is in Baton Rouge, and also they were doing it in Omaha.
The Rouge of Baton. So, great show lined up for you. We were supposed to talk to Packers rookie tight end Cameron McDonald. I played for Florida State. Pretty good tight end. They picked him up undrafted. Couldn't make the team this year. He had something to do at the last minute.
I think he had a flight.
All right, it's okay. We'll get him on. I know a lot of people were looking forward to a Packer. So everybody wants to know what's going on with Jordan Love. The other players' thoughts of Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. As we will get into it a little bit later, the Jets look like they have won Hard Knocks. I don't like it as a Jet fan, even though I've been predicting it for the last couple of weeks because I watch Flight 23 on YouTube, and they automatically, SNY completely got rid of it. The show's gone. And I was like, oh, there's got to be something. There has to be something going on with the New York Jets and Hard Knocks and HBO, and they probably agreed, even though they didn't want it, as Robert Saleh came out and said he does not want cameras in my locker room. Robert Saleh came out and said it. But it looks like Woody Johnson will get what he wants, being center stage on Hard Knocks. And the last time the Jets were in Hard Knocks was 2000, and I'm pretty sure it was 2012, if not mistaken.
Didn't you say it was their second AFC championship
Yes,
year?
it was.
That would be 2010.
I'm sorry, 2010. Yes, it was. And I remember that whole summer, Darrelle Revis, the whole contract dispute situation where he sat out for the first 3 or 4 episodes, and Rex Ryan was really pissed off at him, and then they met at a diner. And now all of a sudden, they go all the way to an AFC title game. So good for the New York Jets. They didn't win. Obviously, we remember what happened. Their offense didn't show up in the first half. Their defense didn't show up in the first half, showed up in the second, and so did their offense. But it was a little too late, if you remember that. But anyways, Max Scherzer, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into our second guest, Max Scherzer says he is willing to waive his no trade clause. So that's the story. I mean, for any Met fan out there that is sitting back and relaxing and enjoying what they are watching when it comes to baseball, when you have your pitcher that you just overpaid for last year because everybody thought, hey, he's still a good pitcher, as we definitely need to get that national analyst on the show. She don't want to come on the show. She is afraid to come on this show because she knows I am going to hand it to her, because I remember her coming on the show and, you don't know Max. I've known him for years. And what did he show? What did he show? He showed nothing, but that's just me. Anyways, at 8 o'clock, we'll be talking to founder of jumpball.net, Mo Dakhil. He'll be joining us. Looking forward to getting him on the show. He's an interesting cat, that's for sure. Absolute interesting cat. We had him on the show before,
yes,
and we went back and forth, and he was another one that didn't like the Brunson move. So interesting to hear what he has to say. And yes, everybody, I know everybody's been looking for Anchored Man, and
he responded. We might have him on next week. We'll see.
Anchorage Man. I call him Anchor Man, but Anchorage Man will possibly be on next Thursday. So looking forward to it. I know a lot of fans can't wait to get him on. He has a huge following now, 33,000 people following him on the Twitter, but I don't know.
There is hope, Snug. There is hope.
Yes. Steve Cohen says both Billy Eppler and Buck Showalter jobs are safe despite the Mets struggling. I will tell you this. I think Billy Eppler will be back next year. I think Buck, if this season falls apart for the Mets, I could see Buck retiring. I don't know why he would want to be here for another year. He does spend a little bit of more money in the offseason. He could add Soto if he becomes available, or, hey, Ohtani. I just have a lot of questions with Steve Cohen, and we will get into that a little bit later in the show, because Steve Cohen speaks out today, and honestly, I'll give him credit. He took a lot of the attacks by the press on the money that he spent and how the money hasn't done anything in helping this team. So, and he says, listen, I take full responsibility right now for the way the team is playing. And I expect my team and I expect the Mets to play better baseball than they have. So I give him credit, because a lot of GMs or owners do not come out and speak after you hear all this disgruntled craziness in the newspaper and in magazines. Sports Illustrated wrote a story last week about the Mets.
You definitely never heard the Wilpons do that.
So we will get into that as well. Josh Donaldson reportedly met Aaron Boone about lack of playing time after being benched 3 days in a row. We have been talking about Josh Donaldson all season long. We're already halfway into the season almost, and Josh Donaldson is opening his big fat mouth. Now, I believe Josh Donaldson could be traded at the trade deadline, or probably bought out and released before the season's end. And I don't know if Aaron Boone will be back next year if the Yankees don't make the playoffs. Now, I believe the Yankees will sneak into the playoffs. Unlike I do not believe the Mets will. There would have to be a miracle if the Mets make the playoffs. It would be a miracle. That's how bad the Mets are playing. And the Yankees aren't playing any better. They have looked horrible. They can't add any offensive responses when a team takes off and takes a lead in a game. They fall behind, and there's no way of catching up. Their pitchers have to be practically scoreless throughout each inning if the Yankees have a chance to win the game. The Yankees right now are one of the worst offensive teams in baseball. And I don't want to hear about Aaron Judge. And Jeff was texting me before the show telling me that, who do you think is better now, Ohtani or Judge? And I said, Ohtani right now. Okay. And you know what he tells me? He says, Aaron Judge was never better than Ohtani. And I said, last year he was. Yeah. He had a better season than Ohtani last year. And I said, I don't want to hear about your Goldilocks balls. And he says, oh, what about ERA? What about whip? He doesn't pitch. Judge don't pitch. So how can we compare Ohtani to Judge? You want to talk about bat? Aaron Judge was way better than Ohtani last year. Aaron Judge was on his way before he got hurt. Now he could be out for the season. Nobody's talking about that. There is a story coming out from the New York Yankees that this could be a season-ending injury. Now, I don't think it will be. I know it's a ligament in a toe, and they're very hard to heal, especially a baseball player. But I believe he'll be back sometime this year, especially if the Yankees are still in the playoff hunt. Josh Jacobs could hold out from training camp if the Raiders don't sign him in a long-term deal. This is a interesting story, man. Because I've been saying Josh Jacobs is one of the best, if not the best running back right now in football. You can argue their offensive line was horrible last year. That was one of the worst offensive lines in football. Everybody keeps talking about how bad Derek Carr was last year. The reason why Derek Carr was so bad is he's a pocket quarterback and he had no time to throw the ball. But everybody forgets that. Now you look at the Saints. The Saints do have somewhat of an offensive line. Let's see how Derek Carr plays this year. But it's Derek Carr's fault. How about it was Josh McDaniels' fault because he didn't give enough depth to this team in the draft, because I'm sure he has a lot of say in it. And, ladies and gentlemen, when he needed players in free agency last year, why didn't he say, hey, you know what? We need some offensive line help. This offensive line stinks. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand. When we look at the game and we try to compare and contrast all these different football players and football teams and coaches, we look at just trying to equal and try to add or subtract what a team is doing in the offseason and what they're going to be throughout the season. Am I wrong?
No, it's the Raiders. They subtract a lot of things.
Dalvin Cook retweets a post about him going to the Jets and the Patriots. I'm going to say this. If you're a Jet fan, you do not want Dalvin Cook. I'm just speaking the truth. I know everybody keeps telling us, hey, it couldn't hurt if we got Dalvin Cook when we talk about Breece Hall might not start the season. Everything that I've heard so far in OTAs, and now they have a week off and they're probably going to be back in the next couple of days. Everybody says Breece Hall will be ready before the season. That's how good and how healthy he looks on the field, running without pads. So I don't think the Jets need Dalvin Cook. They have Michael Carter. They added a running back in the draft. They don't need it. They have a lot of depth. Bam Knight's still on the team too. Why do they need him? I just don't understand. But guess what? He's doing this because he wants the Patriots to sign him, and he wants to piss off the Patriots so they can jump on and give him the contract that he wants. He wants 14, 15 million. The Patriots probably are willing to give it to him. I don't think the Jets are. The Jets don't have the money. They're trying to sign Quinn Williams. Taylor Hall, yes, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of trades going on. Kevin Hayer, Tyler Toffoli, Taylor Hall, and Pierre-Luc Dubois. I just think there's going to be more trades. And by the way, congratulations to Connor Bedard, as he is the number 1 pick in the NHL draft. Everybody expected that. I don't think anybody thought any differently. He is the best player since Connor McDavid coming out of the draft, Canadian-born, fantastic shooter, has an amazing body as far as he's not tall. He's like 5'11", but his speed and his understanding of the game and his body, he's got big legs, and he's really bigger than he looks when you look at his size. And we've been saying that. I told everybody about Jack Hughes when I was at the draft. A lot of people says he's small, but if you look at his whole body, his legs, they were like tree trunks. The Trailblazers say they are committed to Damian Lillard. I believe this is to be true. And the reason why is, why would they go in the first round at number 3 for a shooting guard if they didn't? They wanted Scoot. They added Scoot. And everybody believes the reason why they added Scoot was to give Damian Lillard that shooting guard that he's been asking for since they lost C.J. McCollum. So I believe he is there at least for this year. And I think he's a free agent next year. So he can go anywhere he wants.
I think he's a free agent with a player option.
Yeah, but he's not going to opt in. If he has another good season, he's going to want more money.
Oh, yeah.
Let's parlay, ladies and gentlemen. Who do we have on the show today?
Don't know. Chaz is going to surprise us again. We'll see.
All right. Is Derek coming on?
No, Derek cannot make it this week.
All right. It's okay. Bracket Wars, the number 14 seed GSP versus the number 6 seed Roger Federer. The number 9 seed versus Deion Sanders versus the number 1 seed Michael Jordan. A little bit later in the show. Baseball has been the hot topic. Really, because we're very close to the All-Star game. It's crazy how fast baseball has gone. And it hasn't been cold. It hasn't been hot. It's really been mediocre. 70 degrees, 75 degrees, pretty much throughout the country. It hasn't hit that 80, 85, 90 degree weather, except maybe in Florida or California. But throughout the country, it's been fairly cold or cool, especially at night. And the ball hasn't been traveling. There's a lot of home runs, which we expect, but there were more home runs last season, 50 games in, than there is this season. And it has a lot to do possibly because of the weather. But what the Braves have done over the last couple of weeks has been absolutely amazing. They have been the best team in baseball. You can't argue that. They have the best lineup. They have the best rotation. They have one of the top 5, 6 bullpens in baseball. To me, they're everything you want a team to be if you want to win a championship, with a lot of depth. They have been everything to what baseball teams want to be going into the All-Star break. Maybe even better. Tampa has been as good as anybody all season. They've been the most consistent throughout this season. The Braves have played better baseball in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But the team that's been consistent all season long has been Tampa. And they're the team, honestly, in the American League to beat. And the Braves are the team to beat in the National League. Those are the 2 best teams. You can't argue it. But the 2 New York teams, and I wanted to get into this before we get into Max Scherzer and Steve Cohen. The 2 New York teams have been absolutely horrendous. For anybody to sit here today, and I know Speedy is a Met fan. I'm a Yankee guy. I'm not going to sit here today and say, the Yankees have had such a great season. And the Mets, oh my God, they're going to come back. They're going to have a better second half, when right now they're about 7 games under 500. A team that has spent $1.25 billion in 2 seasons, 2.5 since Cohen has taken over. They're getting no offense. The only 2 players that they've been getting offense all season long in spurts really has been Brandon Nimmo, who would have thought after getting 185 million in the offseason was going to be the hottest and the best hitter for the New York Mets in the last 2 months. Pete Alonso, who can't stay healthy. And maybe I'll give you a third guy because everybody loves him here in New York for the Met fans. And that's Francisco Lindor, who is the biggest hot and cold player in Mets history. And I'm not going to say Jason Bay because he was never hot. He was always cold. I'm serious. You're paying a shortstop. He's a great defender. There's no argument to that. He's probably the second best defensive shortstop in all of baseball. But you didn't get him for his defense. You got him for his offense. And I don't care. Everybody says, well, he's got this many home runs. He's got 16 home runs and 54 RBIs. He's been fantastic. And he's been better the last week and a half. And he has 16 home runs and 54 RBIs. But here's the numbers that really stand out more than anything. He's hitting 226. All season long, he's been hitting under 215. He finally got over 220 for the first time this season. But here's the on-base percentage. Something that this guy has been closer to 5 his whole career. Am I right or wrong?
Again, and most of it is consistency-wise.
350
high, closer to 400.
Yes.
In certain years, but mostly in the 350 range. But it's really bad this year.
He had just broke 300 2 games ago.
Yeah, sounds about right.
He was hitting, his on-base percentage was 296. 290. That's horrible. I'm sorry. And everybody says, well, he wasn't brought to this team for power. He wasn't. They didn't pay him for power. How many seasons has he hit over 30 home runs?
I think twice.
He wasn't brought to this team for power. He was brought to this team for defense, which he's a pretty good defender. And he was brought to this team for stealing bases. On-base percentage. Batting average. This guy at one point was a career 276, 275 batting average hitter. Now, since he's been a Met, let's go look at his numbers. Here, for all the Met fans out there that love this, okay? Let's look at the analytics here. All right. His 2021 season, he batted 230. Last year, after hitting 200 all season long, and somehow he got hot in the second half, he batted 270. So, okay, he's right there where you want. Now it's 2023. He's batting 226. If he hits under 250 this year, that's 2 out of the last 3 seasons under 250. This is a guy that you're paying $37 million to. 38, whatever it equals out to. He signed an 11-year contract. He's 29 years old. These guys are not producing. They're not productive in certain games. And I don't want to hear about, well, his numbers look good. He's got the power numbers. He's hitting numbers by the bulk. He'll hit 2 home runs in a game. Then he won't hit a home run in 5 days. Then he'll hit another home run. Then he won't hit a home run in 3 days. That's not consistent, guys. And that's not what Steve Cohen was paying for. And Max Scherzer, this is what I really am just laughing about, okay? Because I think he is an absolute joke for the New York Mets organization. And Speedy, I know you're a Met fan, so I'm going to let you say what you really, really feel about this. What we have seen Max Scherzer do since he has come to this team has been absolute horrible baseball. Okay? And I don't want to hear anybody come out and make any excuses for this guy because there are none. Max Scherzer has not been good. His numbers as a pitcher have been absolutely horrible. And we sit here and everybody said, oh, they spent that kind of money. They spent, what was it? $43 million a year to bring Max Scherzer here. He could have went anywhere, but he wanted to come and play for the Mets. And instead, Max Scherzer has done absolutely nothing to help this team win. In the playoffs, lose. In the regular season, lose. This guy can't even stay on the field. He has so many lat injuries, ankle, foot, whatever it is. This is a guy that was never hurt his whole career. All of a sudden, he hurts his shoulder before he gets traded from the Nationals to the Dodgers. He didn't pitch as well in the playoffs for the Dodgers, even though he pitched okay. And then he becomes a free agent, and the Mets, hey, we want Max Scherzer. He was going to go back to the Dodgers. He wanted to stay home. He goes to the Mets, and he has been horrible. Remember when the Mets signed him, and everybody's like, oh, you have the two best pitchers in baseball, Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom. And both of those guys couldn't stay healthy last year. Now, Jacob deGrom is having another Tommy John surgery, and Max Scherzer, who's never had Tommy Johns in his life, he's got shoulder problems. He has a lot of fatigue. A lot of excuses for the New York Mets. And then he comes out today and he says, hey, he's willing to waive his no-trade clause. Why? Because he doesn't want to play for this team anymore. Why? Because this team stinks. Why? Because he ruined this team by coming here. An old-timer. Yes, he's better off playing for old-timers day. He's not the same pitcher. I'm not going to take shots at Justin Verlander. I'm not going to do it. You know why? Because Justin Verlander has pitched okay. But I've been telling people this. When they brought Justin Verlander to this organization in the offseason, I said one thing. And I said that Justin Verlander playing for Houston, it will hide some of his deficiencies as a pitcher. Why? Because he played for one of the best defensive teams in baseball. Why? Because he has all these other dominant pitchers in the rotation, and teams were probably saying, hey, I'd rather play my better players against the better pitchers than play my backups against Justin Verlander. And I'm not taking shots at Justin. He's a good pitcher. He's still a good pitcher, but he's not the same pitcher. And Met fans were getting so happy to bring in the old-timers in Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, and Katana. This was the most ridiculous, dumb mistake that Eppler made so far as a GM for the New York Mets.
Yeah, doubling down on the Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander thing was not ideal. You already committed to Scherzer for the first time. That was the first offseason, 2021. And you saw that Max Scherzer, a guy that normally hasn't had injury issues, had 2 different IL stints last year. And the Mets really struggled pitching-wise in the second half of the season on his second stint. The first stint, they actually managed it well. But still, the approach should not be, let's go out and get another older pitcher and get more older pitching depth as a result. And that's where Billy Eppler, I think, really messed it up. Maybe it was Steve Cohen. Maybe it was the ownership wanting to spend more. I don't know. Steve Cohen said he takes a lot of responsibility for that kind of thing. But still, Billy Eppler comes from an Angels front office that gave out big contracts too. So I feel like a lot of that leeway had to do with him too. But Max Scherzer this year is not pitching that way, even with him being hurt this year too. Like last year when he was healthy, he still pitched well. This year he's not.
You're listening to these 2 idiots over here on our feed saying, oh, Max Scherzer's 7-2. He's 7-2, okay? That we're going to sit here. His ERA is almost 4.
I know.
It's almost 4. Okay, Snug? You can make up whatever you want. You want to argue your points over here? You're getting paid. You're the second, or you can argue you're the number 1 paid pitcher in baseball right now. And I don't want to hear it because you guys have been taking shots at Yankee pitchers for years. For years. Even Garrett Cole last year, at some point, he was 7-3?
Right.
And you were making fun of his ERA and his whip. And that's what everybody looks at. And you're going to tell me a guy that you're paying $43 million a year, $395 with a whip, 1.175? Are you kidding me? Please, Snug, why don't you get off? You don't need to go on and say whatever you want to feel because you want to attack everything by looking at statistics. And I am all about statistics. And if you're going to tell me 7-2 right now with a 395 and a whip of 1.175 is good when a guy is making what? The Mets gave him, what was it, 3 years, 78, 79 million?
Yeah.
Okay, so please stop with your stuff. You want facts? I'll give you facts because you're looking at your computer. You cannot tell me Max Scherzer is having a good season.
You also can't say that wins are an indicative stat to be able to judge everything with a starting pitcher. It's even more deceiving for a relief pitcher, but for a starting pitcher, like there's leverage points of how you actually win based on team run support. Look at Jacob deGrom in his first Cy Young year, only had 10 wins. Felix Hernandez, one of his Cy Young years, 10 wins because the Mets didn't get, or the Mets and the Mariners did not give those teams run supports. So there's a big difference. And then there's a guy like Scherzer in 2013 where, yeah, he had a good year. I don't think he should have won the Cy Young, but won 21 games because Detroit scored 7 runs a game for him. So it's a deceiving stat for that
Snug,
reason.
it's horrible. You're going to tell me it's not, it wasn't good, but it's not horrible? It's bad. And Justin Verlander, I would say this. You have 2 pitchers on your roster making $86 million. 2 pitchers this year making $86 million. What is the Mets' number right now in money spent this season? Go look at that. Go look at their salary this year. Because right now, Justin Verlander, his ERA is 4.11 and his whip 1.228.
$353 million spent on players.
$353 million. And these guys are taking up just a little bit under a quarter of the money that you're invested into this season.
To put it in perspective, the Yankees are second with about $277 million. That's how big the difference is.
It's horrible. You're paying 2 old-timers, 2 40-year-old pitchers, $43 million a year for a pitcher like Justin Verlander, 2-4, ERA 4.11. Do not put Jeff on. Do not answer the phone. I do not want to hear his crap. He wants to call back. He could call back later. I don't have anything to say to somebody who's just idiotic. And he's trying to compare Ohtani to Judge this year when Judge has barely played this year. And when he was playing, he was one of the hottest hitters in baseball. And now all of a sudden, because Ohtani has, 27 home runs, and he's having that unbelievable season as a pitcher and as a hitter, oh my God, he's better. It's not true. It is bullcrap. And honestly, I would say Ohtani is better than Judge right now. There's no question that he is. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to guys like Snug and guys like Jeff telling me that I should sit here and argue with them. Oh, well, you know what? A Yankee pitcher. Let's go look at let's go look at Garrett Cole that everybody and their mother takes a shot at all season long because he's not a good pitcher. And this is what they've been saying. He needs this. He needs to cheat. Okay. And this is what we've been hearing all season long from these 2 idiots over there. One from Sacramento, who's a Boston Red Sox fan, and the other one from Tampa Bay, Florida, who's a Boston Red Sox fan. Okay. Garrett Cole, which everybody takes shots at, especially them, is 8-1 with a 2.78 ERA and a 1.129 whip. Okay? That's what a pitcher who you're paying $38 million to should be putting up. Numbers like that. And you're taking shots at him because last year he was caught with spider tap. But the Mets, when you say, hey, Max Scherzer's 7-2 with a 3.95 ERA and a 1.175 whip, who's making $5 million more than Garrett Cole is right now, is having an okay season. Give me a break. I'm not arguing with you guys, and I'm not gonna sit here and go back and forth with you guys trying to compare and contrast by looking at numbers, because I am a numbers guy. And by the way, Jeff, who sits here and attacks everybody on social media. Yes, he does. He attacks everything and everybody on social media. And he loves to call the show just to throw people under the bus because he wants to know statistics. Hey, What's going on with the Red Sox right now? What are the excuses for the Red Sox fans right now? Huh? Let's hear it. All you Red Sox fans out there listening to the show and attacking me on social media. What are they doing right now? What's the excuse for the Red Sox fan right now?
They're still better than the Mets, unfortunately. That's to say everything for a team that had no expectations versus a team that had great expectations, spending $353 million.
They're barely 500 right now, the Red Sox. Right. Okay? Barely 500. I hear Jeff, and he says, oh, well, the Red Sox, they don't have anything right now. They're trying to rebuild. They paid Rafael Devers a significant amount this past offseason. What was it? 300 and something million dollars?
13,331 or something like that. It's very similar to Lindor's contract.
Okay. What's Devers doing right now?
In a slump. Bad slump.
What is his numbers right now? The big superstar. The superstar right now of the Boston Red Sox. Oh, I'm sorry. He's batting .241. That's what he's doing. Is 18 home runs and 60 RBIs? What's Jeff still trying to call?
Yeah, he's been.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to let him cut into this. You know why? Because his stupidity is not going to break me on this show tonight. I'm not going to sit here. You want statistics? What kind of statistics is this? 18 home runs and 60 RBIs, but oh my God, he's batting .241. Are the Red Sox fans happy about that?
Yeah, he's a little better than Lindor. Yay.
This is a guy that you're spending, I don't know, $38 million on this season. That's a good deal, by the way. Great numbers. By the way, just so you know, before Aaron Judge, and he had what, 295 at bats, right? That's what he has right now, right? It's 295 at bats. Let's look at Aaron Judge's numbers before he got hurt, okay? Because to sit here and listen to the stupidity of our great and powerful friend, Jeff from Tampa, who thinks he knows everything. Aaron Judge had 173 at-bats. He had 19 home runs. That means he has one more home run out of like almost 150 less at-bats. Okay? 150. He has 19 home runs. He was batting .291 with 40 RBIs. That's what he was doing. Okay? And to compare Aaron Judge, who, by the way, Ohtani is having a better season as of right now. But before his injury, Aaron Judge was playing better than Ohtani. He was. Ohtani just got hot for a month. He's been one of the hottest hitters in baseball. How many home runs does he have this month in June?
Or the total for the season? Oh, for the home runs?
June.
I think 12, yeah.
Yeah, he's had his best home run month this month in June. How do we know Aaron Judge wouldn't have 27 home runs? He had 19. He probably has 28, 29 home runs. But I don't care. The Yankees suck. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Yankees are good. They stink. They're horrible. The Mets stink. They're horrible. The Red Sox really stink.
Well, the Red Sox are still doing better than the Mets, which is a sad state for where the Mets are at right now, because the Mets have zero pitching whatsoever. The Red Sox, at least they were supposed to have zero pitching, and they're still like weathering the storm amidst all that. The Mets have zero pitching, and they're finding new ways to make it worse. And even somebody like Senga, who started off the season well, is in a slump too. And that should say a lot about where the state this team is. And the bullpen that was good for the first month and a half stinks too now.
And Steve Cohen comes out today and speaks to the Met fan, and I could understand how and why he's so stressed out. Okay, his team right now is 7 games under 500. They have not been good. Okay, now there's still another half of the season, and the Mets could go on a winning streak. They can win 15, 16 games in a row. They could. Maybe Scherzer, takes his comments off the board on possibly waiving his no-trade clause.
Along with his other comments of sticky stuff and pitch clock nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those comments, great.
But maybe he takes that off the table if the Mets start winning. I know Justin Verlander will have no buyers. Not the way he's pitching right now. And he's laughing to the bank. And I'm sure Steve Cohen is not happy about that. But for him to take responsibility right now and show up at that press conference and take responsibility of the Mets play, I got to give him a lot of credit. Because if I was an owner right now and the way my team is playing, I hide. James Dolan has been doing it for years. You hide. You don't want to speak to the press. You don't want to speak to the fans. Why? Because everything that you said was going to happen this year has not. You went out. You decided to let go of Jacob deGrom, which looks like a good move right now. And you bring in Justin Verlander, which looks like a bad move right now. Last year, bringing in Max Scherzer looked like a bad move. You know what? Put him on.
Well, now it's snug. Do you want the snug on or
put the idiots on? Okay, I have nothing to say to these guys, but whatever. Let's hear.
All right, snugs first.
What's up?
Oh my goodness!
Let's hear it.
So grouchy.
Let's hear it. Grouchy? Let's hear it. Let's go ahead. Spit out whatever you want to spit.
Understand how Max Scherzer is horrible. When I just looked it up, you're right. I have a computer. I know how to use it. And the average ERA in MLB is 4.25.
Yeah, 4.25. That counts for a lot of bad pitchers.
So he's now. If you want to argue that he's not the value you're looking for, I agree. But I don't. You can't blame the Mets on this one. The Mets, Uncle Stevie is a gambler, right? And you don't get billions of dollars without taking risk. The Mets took some risk. It didn't work out. But he's still not horrible. Max Scherzer has tons of trade value. Somebody will take him now. Uncle Stevie is going to eat money. You're 100% right. If you're going to say that, that's true. But Uncle Stevie has the money to eat. He doesn't mind eating money. So he took a risk. He tried. But Scherzer is not horrible. You cannot tell me that. And if Scherzer went to the Yankees tomorrow, you would be
I don't want him.
stoked.
I do.
Why would the Yankees
say that?
I do not want him. I do not want him.
The Yankees love guys that are expensive and get injured. So, I mean,
if you're going to sit here and tell me it's okay for a pitcher that's making $43 million, who they thought they were bringing in a Cy Young candidate, who they were comparing to Jacob deGrom and Justin Verlander and, himself, saying that they're the three best pitchers in baseball, and then they both these guys last year, Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, what did they total in wins last year and ERAs to strikeouts and everything like that? It wasn't as good as everybody thought they were going to be. And by the way, this year, Max Scherzer, you're saying 395. What's the average right now?
You said the league average is 4.25.
All right.
That accounts for so many bad pitchers too. Like that aren't supposed
how many
to be
pitchers?
good.
How many
That's
started?
why we take an average, right, Speedy?
Yeah.
So we can count for good and bad pitchers.
So you're saying that Max Scherzer, who's making all this money, who everybody last year says he was still the same pitcher he was when he played for the Nationals and the Dodgers, you're going to tell me that 395 an average is good enough? It's not.
Again, you were combining arguments and you're moving the field goal post. Yeah. What I said is that is not horrible.
That's
that is
horrible.
Not a horrible performance.
That's horrible.
No, it's not. That's
395.
fake news.
No.
Now, if you're saying it's a bad value,
Speedy, how many pitchers?
I agree that it's not the greatest value.
How many pitchers has a better average right now than he does?
At least 25 qualified starters. I'm trying to see even more. It's 2 pages worth. Yeah, at least it looks like at least 40 have qualified.
So you're going to
starters.
tell me 40 starting pitchers have a better ERA than Max Scherzer, and that's good. That's bad. That's horrible. That's terrible. That's not fake news. That's fact. That's fact.
Like
37 pitchers have more than have better ERA
than.
Happy
with the contract, but if he was on any team and you didn't know who he was, and you looked at 7-2 with a 3.95 ERA, you'd be like, that guy's solid. That's a pretty good.
How many starters?
You would
right
not
now?
say that was
37.
horrible.
How many starters in all of baseball?
37 qualified starters with better ERAs.
No, how many starters right now altogether in baseball right now? What is it, like 70 something?
How many teams in baseball?
30.
There's 30, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's 37 starters that are better.
37 qualified starters have better ERAs than Max
so
Scherzer.
That's essentially 1 and change better.
That's horrible.
On each team, right?
Snug, that is horrible.
It's not horrible.
It's horrible.
It could be a horrible value, but that's not horrible. Any
It's
playoff
horrible.
team, if it was horrible, would he have trade value?
Yeah, he has trade value. That doesn't make
What
it
is this trade
good.
value?
That doesn't make it good value.
A second round, like a late first round, or I mean, not late first round, a couple of draft picks that are probably single A players. You're not going to get much from Max Scherzer. He's 40 years old. He's making $43 million. Yes, he might eat some of the money. Maybe he cuts it down. I don't know. to 20-something million. You still have to pay Max Scherzer 20-something million. And by the way, he could take the option next year, and you're going to have to pay him the other $43 million. So,
and I'm positive that Uncle Stevie would eat some of that too.
They're going to have to, because the only teams that are going to trade for him.
It is horrible.
You can never say that 7-2 and a 3.95 ERA is horrible.
That is a third starter in your rotation. In a
if
good
you
rotation.
want to argue the value isn't there, then I would agree that's not a great value. But you cannot say that's a horrible season. That is not horrible statistics.
It's not going to.
If it was a
good,
so you were
not
just very
great.
happy about an 8-1 Yankees pitcher named Kermit, right? Were you not?
But wins are starting for starters deceiving.
Let's go to your friend Kermit.
It has something to do with
who
it.
is
I
two?
agree
No,
it's not straight and direct, but it's not terrible.
Kermit,
you
call the guy that you call Kermit right now is a top 2 Cy Young voting pitcher right now in the American League.
I didn't say Kermit's not having a good year. No, clearly he's found a new substance.
He deserves every single bit of the money he's getting paid.
Sure, why not? But are you arguing value or are you arguing a horrible season? Those are different arguments.
What type of value do you think the Mets are going to get for a guy that's getting overpaid, who's 40 years old, who's not having a good season? His ERA is up almost at 4, and it could go even higher by the time they trade him if he allows it. And his whip right now is closer to 2 than it is to 1.
Well, I mean that's also a misleading and slippery slope argument because at 1.5,
why is it
closer to 2 than it is to 1?
Snug, why is it misleading though when you're judging the teams that are actually going to trade for him? The only teams that are going to trade for him are these newer, younger contending teams that have the money to do it. Teams that Max Scherzer was previously getting paid more their entire payroll. Teams like the Orioles.
So that
teams
sounds
like the
value.
Reds. Yeah.
Sounds like trade
but
value.
They're not trading their A-level prospects because most of them are up on those major league teams already.
Did I ever say that did I say that? See, you're putting words in my mouth now. Did I ever say that he was going to get a top prospect? No one's going to trade. The Mets aren't going to get Shohei Ohtani for him. None of that's going to happen. Right?
The Mets
he has trade value. He's having a reasonably good season.
He's not.
If you look at the statistics, he may not be a good value. You may not like what they're paying him. I can appreciate that, but those are two very different things.
What value do you think they're going to get for him? What do you think they're going to get for him?
Honestly, right now, I don't think we have a very clear view. We'll see who's injured and we'll see who's contending.
The Mets mascot has more value than he does.
I know the Yankees probably would like a cool mascot like Mr. Baseball, but
I don't think the Yankees care about a damn mascot, honestly. You know who the mascot is? It's those bleacher creatures out there that are just absolute animals. And I could be one of many people that say that they are. All right. So they don't need anybody like Mr. Baseball or Mrs. Baseball running around and waving to the fans. Okay.
Mrs. Baseball's hot. I'm just going to say it. Throw it out there.
Yeah. Are you going to give her a cupcake?
I'm sure that's the several dream. Cupcakes, and I plan to give her more if it works. You know what I mean?
I'm sure that's the dream for Snug. He just has to manipulate it through cupcakes. Yes, Josh, we know it's Mr. Metz.
Yeah, Dr. Metz.
Mr. Metz, Mr. Baseball,
Nurse
whatever.
Metz.
I mean, he's cool.
No. If the mascots were doctors and nurses, the Mets would not have this many injury issues throughout their franchise history. But yet they do. Hey, they're the most fragile team in baseball for my entire time watching baseball.
Everybody talks about how wonderful the water is in New York for the pizza and the bagels and all that. Yeah. Maybe it injures New York pitching.
Yes, I'm sure pizza has a direct correlation.
Jacob deGrom.
Jacob deGrom's hurt now with a different team.
I notice over there in the dugouts, I don't even think they drink water. I think they drink Gatorade. Mm-hmm. That's what I think they have in the dugouts. Yep. So I
don't know. The Red Sox drank whiskey and won a World Series. So I'm just saying. Folks need to reevaluate some of this stuff and reconsider how things get done.
Oh
yes, I'm sure. I'm sure Billy Eppler took that into that before he made his decisions this offseason.
I don't think that Billy Eppler has ever tasted whiskey in his life.
Wow.
Now, all right. Well, then he's drinking something else that's strong.
We know the Mets assistant GM did last year.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Billy Eppler might drink the bong water. I'd give him that, but he's never had whiskey.
Yeah, between the Mets assistant GM and then Mickey Callaway, that was not a bright moment in Mets history. That's for sure. And there's been a lot of bad moments in Mets history.
And maybe they
Hey,
could put him in the
Mets are
lineup.
Fun.
Yeah, I might
Pete
need to pitch at
Alonso-
this rate.
Pete Alonso's the real deal. I think you give him the shortstop a little bit of a rough go, because if he ends up with 30 home runs and 100 RBIs, most of the league be pretty happy with that.
He's not the main problem,
Especially
but
from
he
your
is
shortstop.
down.
I look at him, and I understand when you and some people will look at his power numbers. Good, his power numbers are where they need to be. Where he was hitting with the Cleveland Indians, but he was also hitting 275, 276 when he was with the Cleveland Indians. Last year, he hit 270, got hot at the last month of the season. He was one of the hottest hitters in baseball. But throughout the season last year, he was hot and cold and cold and cold and cold, and he got hot at the end. You want consistency from those guys that are getting paid a lot of money. And for a guy that's in the prime of his career, and he is hitting 226 right now, going in, what is it, a couple weeks from the All-Star break?
Yeah.
You have to be worried about what you're investing into with a team
No,
under
you're almost-
7 games under 500.
You're almost 5 weeks from the trade deadline. It's
No, not
August
the trade.
7th.
I'm talking about the All-Star break.
Oh, the
All-Star
All-Star break.
break,
Yeah,
yes.
you're right. That's correct.
The All-Star break is
2
where,
weeks.
because
It's the
that's
single most boring weekend in baseball.
Yeah, well, I like the home run derby. That's fun to watch. But to me, I think when you look at the second half, you look after the All-Star break. I don't even look at the trade deadline, because the trade deadline, those are the last moves that you can make unless you bring players off of waivers. And then they have the waiver wire. Somebody drops somebody, and all these playoff teams eventually pick up these guys that you don't think or shouldn't be available. For some reason, baseball allows this to keep going.
The players
on.
to be named later too are always a great choice.
After the trade deadline, no moves should be able to be happening. Okay, I've been saying that for a long, long time. But after the trade deadline, we see 5 weeks later,
Waiver
6
trades,
weeks. There's still trades. There's still moves. I don't understand it. I still don't understand how baseball allows this and keeps pushing this throughout every single season.
Snug, you brought up the home run derby too. Maybe they should just have the Mets pitchers pitch to Pete Alonso this year instead of they don't need the other guy. They give him a year off. The Mets pitchers allow so many home runs anyway.
Did you hear that they're having a new contest this year at the All-Star break? And this one I might watch.
What is this?
It's the spin rate. And then the Yankees pitchers are going to show everyone their favorite sticky substances, and they're going to show the difference in the spin rates.
Oh, yeah. And
So
who's
it's going to be kind of cool.
Yeah, and who's going
I'm
to be
looking forward
pitching
to it. Yeah, and maybe Max Scherzer might learn something. You never know. Maybe
Now
we'll
Max
watch
Scherzer
that.
might do it again. He'll get suspended the 60 games or whatever the second violation is, and then
Well, if they
he'll never
show
get
him-
traded.
If they show him the stuff that works, but
Yeah.
anyway, gentlemen,
it works for a
I'm gonna take-
3.95 ERA.
Thank you for calling, man.
I'm going to take my leave, but the last thing I'm going to say is shout out to Jeff. I don't think it's cool to silence the best caller on the network.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Kenny and everyone listen to the Kenny show every Sunday at noon because it's awesome.
Thank you, Snug.
And sometimes it's in ropes.
I only shut down Jeff right now. I never said he couldn't call back. I did not want him to trample all over my monologue like he tries to do every single show. I'm not going to allow it. So, but anyways, thank you for calling.
All right. And Jeff's a fine gentleman. Have a nice evening.
I love Jeff. Okay. I like him as a person, but when he tries to attack certain things, I'm not going to sit here and allow it. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and allow it. Now, Snug came on. I let him speak. I didn't attack him, even though I think he's out of his mind. To say that Scherzer's having, an average season. If you're saying average is good enough and you're saying that he has value, what value does he have?
He's pitching like a good team's third starter. That's not
No, but
good.
what do you think he's worth right now? What could you get from Max Scherzer?
Probably a B-level prospect and maybe one current player on the roster.
You really think they could get that much?
Yeah.
I don't.
Depends on the team, but again, I think a B-level prospect.
He is making $43 million. You're going to have to cut some of that money and eat up some of that money. So doing that, you might be able to get a player.
Right.
But
You're going to get a little more if you take the money. Yes.
I think you're going to get a B-level player. That's it. You're going to get one thing. Max Scherzer is not the same pitcher he once was. He's not. And if a team does pick him up, let's say, I don't know.
I think the Orioles and the Reds are probably two most likely. Let's use those two because they have a lot of money, room money.
Why would he want to go to the Orioles? And why would he want to go to the Reds? Now, the Orioles are a good team right now, and they could make the playoffs, but they're still a young team. They're not winning anything this year. He wants to go to a team that's going to give him a chance to win. Cincinnati? Why would he go to Cincinnati? Cincinnati, they're having a good season, but Cincinnati's been a team that's been known to trade away pieces, even when they're playing good baseball. And once they fall out of it, they go on like a skid of 7 or 8 games, they're going to trade away pieces.
I only brought those 2 teams up because those were the 2 teams that Max Scherzer, besides the Rays, those were the 2 teams Max Scherzer was making more than the entire team's
I could see Arizona. I think Josh is
I don't
right.
think Arizona needs him, though. Arizona's got a lot of good starting pitching. I don't
Wasn't he drafted by Arizona?
Yeah. I don't think they need him, though. I think Arizona could use more bullpen help. Their starting pitching's really good. I don't think Arizona's going to go after that. They might go after more bullpen help, I think. And there's really no obvious other contender that would need him. Texas has good starting pitching, even without DeGrom. I don't think they would need that kind of thing. Tampa's not going to spend that kind of money, go for that kind of money.
I think the Giants, too. The Giants are they're always a good second half team. They have good pitchers all the time. Their pitching is always good. And before we get to our break and we have our guest and Mo Dakhil, I'm sorry. Josh Donaldson reported that he spoke to Aaron Boone about a lack of playing time and all this other stuff. Here's what I'm going to say about the whole Josh Donaldson thing. If you're a Yankee fan out there and think that Josh Donaldson is a make or break player right now, if he's in your lineup, shame on you. Because he has been absolutely horrendous. I thought he was a pretty decent pickup when the Yankees made that trade and they brought him in. And they thought, hey, you know what? Bring him in. Even if he gives you 25 and 70, that's better than what the Yankees got at third base for the last couple of years. Now, they've had pretty good consistency out there, but not power numbers and they're not numbers that are going to give you 70 or 80 RBIs. They haven't had a third baseman to do that in a pretty long time, since Alex Rodriguez. But Donaldson can't stay healthy. The guy was horrible in the playoffs. He was absolutely horrendous in the playoffs last year. He was everything you don't want a player to be in the playoffs. How many hits did he have in the playoffs last year? 2?
I think he had 2. I think he had 1 in that game 5 against Cleveland, but that was really
I agree with you, Leaf.
Yeah.
Donaldson is the next and a new Dan Uggler.
Yeah.
He's absolutely
That's a perfect analogy.
It really is. Uggler was a good hitter. I think he won an MVP, or he was up for an MVP.
Yeah, he was up for an MVP, I think.
And
right.
Josh Donaldson won an MVP.
Right.
And he's been horrible ever since.
Mm-hmm.
He's just been horrendous. Watching Josh Donaldson makes me want to hurl, okay? I want to throw up every time he goes to the plate. He's horrible. This is a guy that I expected 25 or 30 home runs. The guy's lucky to get 15.
Yeah.
And the Yankees are still paying him $27, $28 million.
Yep, have fun with that.
Well, he's gone next year.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't sit here and say to Josh Donaldson, you're going to go to the manager and say, hey, you know what? I'm having a lack of playing time. If you don't play me, then trade me. Who's going to want you?
Nobody's going to want him. Right-handed hitting value is already going down in free agency as it is, so nobody's going to want him for that much money.
Nobody wants you.
Before we go to break, Leaf also says that trade Max for Charlie Morton straight up. I'll do that. Morton for an 8 Tim Hudson or Derek Lowe. In Atlanta, he was the rainmaker. That was his last good year. Yes, 2019 with the Braves. That was his last good stint, but that was his only one in the last 7 years. And then they knew he was washed and let him go to Minnesota. Yes. And they ended up with Gary Sanchez and Isaiah Kiner for Leffa.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It's just horrible. Horrible baseball. Watching the Yankees is like, I have sit and watched at least 5 Yankee games, full Yankee games all season long. And honestly, they are some of the worst and boring games I've ever seen. I've been to 3 baseball games this year, 2 Yankees and 1 Mets. And honestly, the best game I've watched out of all 3 games was the Mets game. Well, the Mets won 1-0.
I went to one they lost
with Senga, with Senga on the mound. That was the best game I saw this year out of all 3 games that I saw, both New York teams.
At least you didn't see
1-0.
At least you didn't see one where they lost 1-0.
Congratulations, Errol.
Jesse Winker game.
Congratulations, Errol, for going to a game that you saw 1 run in the game and how many hits? I think it was 4 hits for both teams. Congratulations. And the Yankee games, they were horrible. Oh, they got smashed out by the Padres. I think the game was I think they lost like 3-6, 6-3.
Yeah.
And I think the other game, the Yankees lost like 7-2 or something like that. It was just horrible. I can't. I will not go into another Yankee game this year until this lineup figures it out, because I don't want to hear Brian Cashman. And everybody keeps saying fire Brian Cashman. Brian Cashman is not the reason why this lineup is not hitting. The problem right now is the way when somebody gets hot in the lineup, then they sit out the next day. We have been watching this. Gleyber Torres hits 2 home runs in a game, and then all of a sudden the next day he's hot. He's sitting the bench. He's riding the bench for that particular game. Why? He's hot. He's hitting the ball for the last 2 games. He's giving you 2 home runs. He's hitting over 300, and you sit him out. Oh, he needs the rest. What do you mean he needs the rest? He's a hot hitter. You take him out. What do you add him with? Somebody you never heard of. The lineup's horrible. And it has nothing to do with Aaron Judge. Please, Yankee fans, even if Aaron Judge was in this lineup, how much better do you think this lineup would be? Oh my God. It's horrible. Anyways, when we come back, we'll be talking to founder of the jumpball.net, Mo Dakhil, here on the Sports Loudmouths.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouths.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, this is the Sports Loudmouths. Look at Mo. He has a smile on his face. We can get into this. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Sports Loudmouths. Obviously, every Wednesdays at 7 p.m., Thursdays at 9 p.m., Game On, which airs every single Friday at 6 p.m. with Josh Silverberg. And obviously tonight, we have a consistency with our guy, Trey Larkin, who is live. He was live tonight of the Wise Guys, so he was fantastic tonight, actually, too. So great shows. And really, all you have to do is go and check out the menu key, and you can find all the shows on the menu key. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are now talking to founder of the jumpball.net. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he's on again. Mo Dakhil. Mo, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Well, I'm good. I mean, I remember you, man. And we went back and forth.
I remember you.
Back and forth with Steph Curry, okay? And we will get into Steph Curry and now Chris Paul, which will join him this coming year. Interesting addition. Really it is. But before we get into that, how are you and your family doing? We haven't spoken to you in a while since COVID, really. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. I appreciate you asking. It's been tough, the scheduling wise, time wise, totally different coasts and everything like that. It's always hard to get the schedules to align right, but I'm glad they got to jump back on.
Oh, I'm happy that you're on because I have a lot to talk to you about. As I remember speaking to you about Jalen Brunson, and you had a few things to say about that move by the New York Knicks, and I'm sure you're going to bite your tongue on that because he had a pretty good season. But before we get into that,
he had a great season. I was not all that high on it. I'll own it. He had a great season.
I like that. I like that because we're going to have a couple of you analysts that love to take shots at the move and the addition of Jalen Brunson, and it worked out for the Knicks. The Knicks looked pretty good going into the second round. If they knocked off Miami, that would have been a pretty good season going all the way to the Eastern Conference for a team that shouldn't have been there.
To be honest with you, getting to the second round was a pretty good season for them. I think you look at that season for the Knicks as a full-on success. And I think there's a lot of things that attribute to it. It's not just Jalen Brunson, who was the key guy to it. There's no question about it. But also, Tibbs did a great job coaching these guys and playing the young guys. That's the thing I've been criticizing Tibbs the year before about. He played the young guys, and it panned out, and it worked out for them. And they got to the second round of the playoffs, and I think that was an important thing. Quickly got time. Toppin was playing off the bench and things like that. Like, he leaned into the young movement, and it paid off for them.
There's a lot of stories right now over the last couple of days that have come out from Cleveland. And some people don't want to say anything, but there's been a lot of video, a lot of pictures out there that Donovan Mitchell has been hanging out with the New York Knicks organization. He's hanging out with Stephen A. Smith. He's hanging out with this guy. He's hanging out with Allen Houston and some of the management for the New York Knicks at a Met game. All these different stories. And then over there in Cleveland on a radio show, I was listening to it the other day, and he said there was somebody, what analyst? It was White. Was it Wittenhurst or something like that? It wasn't. It was somebody from ESPN that was on the show, and he said that he cannot give any information because he could lose his job. But he said there's a lot of things going on in the last couple of days, and if you check out social media, you would see what is going on. So have you heard anything from Cleveland on your side? Have you heard that Cleveland might be moving a Donovan Mitchell to maybe New York?
I've not heard that. I be honest, I've kind of taken a little bit of a break after the draft, so I'm not all that plugged into the news, or shall I say the Twitter news of all of these things and the chasing of these storylines on Twitter. But look, it'd be dumb for Cleveland to do it. It wouldn't make any sense for everything that they gave up. Like, I don't find any opportunity. I don't see how it would make any sort of sense for Cleveland to make the trade and send him, not just trade away Donovan Mitchell when they've had a successful year themselves, but to the team that knocked them out, a team that they are competing with, basically, as young teams, trying to rise up in the Eastern Conference, to just hand them Donovan Mitchell. It wouldn't make much sense to me. I don't think that's the smoke I would see from Cleveland. The stuff I wouldn't be surprised from Cleveland if Jared Allen finds a new home. Like, I think that's more what I think is going to be something that might possibly happen in Cleveland. I think it'd be a year too early, but I think that's more in line than Donovan Mitchell being moved, and more importantly, being moved to the Knicks.
Windhorst spoke about it, and he said there's a lot going on, and with Cleveland, and maybe some movement in the next couple of days. So I'm interested to see. And by the way, there are a couple players that could opt into a contract with the Knicks and decided to wait a couple of days before they do that. So maybe there's something brewing right now that we don't know. And maybe there will be a move. Who knows? But Cleveland is an organization that thought they were going to be a contender this year. They lost against a team that they thought they can definitely compete with, but just didn't show up in a game, especially Garland, he played very well in one of the games and then completely disappeared in the series.
Yeah, I'll push back. I don't think they thought they could contend this year. They thought they'd have a chance to be a playoff team, which is what they were. And they probably thought, hey, we could get home court advantage. And, remind me if I'm wrong. They finished fourth, right? And the Knicks were fifth? Yeah.
And the Knicks finished fifth.
To me, 4 and 5, it's like the same thing. Like, yeah, you guys are both right in the mix. But I don't think they thought they were going to contend this year. I think they thought we've built a young core, and moving forward, our goal is to contend, the next year or the year after with that. And I think, they had an accomplished season with that. And listen, that series, Knicks, Cavs, like, that was really a toss-up for me. I thought it'd go longer. I'm impressed by the Knicks, the way they played. I thought the problem for the Cavs was they actually leaned too much on Donovan Mitchell at the end of games. And I thought they got better offense when they went with Darius Garland, who was trying to kind of create offense for everybody else. And Mitchell, who has a tendency to do this, we saw it in Utah, gets stuck in hero ball mode. And that, I think, hurt the Cavs a little bit down the stretch in a lot of those close games.
So another rumor we heard with the Knicks before the draft was Paul George. They were the ones that actually reached out to the Clippers, and them and the Trailblazers were the two teams that reached out. Do you think it's realistic for the Knicks to go after Paul George? And would you, if you're the Knicks, go after somebody who's 33 years old?
Yeah, I think, they have a lot of assets. Like the Knicks are in prime position to make a massive swing and go after a guy. And it wouldn't surprise me. Hey, let's just check in and see what the price is on Paul George. The funny thing with these kinds of reporting, it's like, hey, if you called and just asked about a guy, you're automatically trading for him, or just like, you're more just like, hey man, how much does that cost? Oh, that's too much. And then you're hanging up the phone. Like you're almost kind of gauging it. And I think everybody around near the draft is calling everybody in that sense. For me, if I were the Knicks, I wouldn't make a move for Paul George. Look, the injury history and the age, like you're pushing your chips all in, what you've been saving up for, what you guys have been so patient about, building properly. You're going to push it all in for a guy who, he played like 50 games this season. Like you're the last time he played like 67 or 68 games was OKC. Like it's a long time ago. I would just think that's not a guy I'd feel comfortable with. The talent level, yeah. I just don't have a guarantee he's going to stay healthy, and his history has proven he can't.
We are talking to the founder of the jumpball.net, Mo Dakhil. It's funny because we sit here and we look at some of these guys, especially this offseason, that could be moved. Karl Anthony Towns, his name has been, wheeling around the league right now. Zach LaVine is another player that already came out and said that he'd go to anybody but the Knicks. But he doesn't have a no trade clause. So if the Knicks really want him, they can make a move for him. So there's quite a few. DeRozan is another player that could be moved this offseason. There's quite a good bunch of players. Eric Middleton obviously came out and said that Chris Middleton. I said Eric Middleton. Chris Middleton came out and said that he is not taking his player option. So he is going to opt out of his contract. He's a free agent. So there are good players still available this offseason. Where do you think these players are going to go?
Well, one, I'll just start with, I think Karl Anthony Towns is going to stay in Minnesota. I know they just paid Naz Reid. They're paying like a metric ton for 3 big men. And it's all like, what the hell are we talking about here in that regard? But I think it's still maybe a year too early for them to make that move on Karl Anthony Towns. When you look at the way that entire season went for Minnesota, they never really were healthy until just before the playoffs. So I don't even think they know what they have yet. And I think that might be too soon in that. I know the taxes and everything with that. I don't think he's there long term, but I don't think he moves this summer. And I don't think he's a target for the Knicks. I don't like, one, him and Tibbs hated each other in Minnesota. So I don't understand. I don't understand why you'd bring in the guy that Tibbs hates and just think that's going to work out fine.
Just so you know, I don't think any of those guys are going to the Knicks. Just so you know. I have no interest as a Knicks fan in Karl Anthony Towns, really. I have no interest in Zach LaVine, especially that he doesn't want to be there. But if the Knicks want him, he doesn't have a no trade clause. They can get him. So that's all I'm saying. And DeRozan, he's another guy. I don't want him either because he can't play in the playoffs. He's not a good playoff player.
Yeah, I could see LaVine sticking around Chicago, but I could see DeRozan ending up in Miami if it turns out Damian Lillard's not going to be moved. I think that's just a situation. Of course, it's another mid-range shooter, not going to help them so much in terms of their long-term shooting, but it's another scorer. And I think that would help them a ton in that regard. I could see him fitting in Miami and making that work. And with Spoelstra and the run they're going to try to go on next season, I think that's something that's a real possibility. LaVine, it's a massive contract. Like for a guy that, let's just be honest, hasn't done a lot of winning. So I don't know how much you really want to jump on board with that and feel like, hey, I don't know a team that's really eager to jump in on that train right now with that boatload of money. And then Middleton, I think Middleton returns to Milwaukee. I think he's going to get less money, but longer term security. And I think that's going to be the deal for him with the Bucks. I don't think he's going to be really much of a threat to leave because Milwaukee can't afford to lose him.
So the Kristaps Porzingis trade with the Celtics and the Grizzlies, the 3-way swap. I liked it from the Celtics end. They got the 2 extra first-round picks. I also said I liked it from the Grizzlies end too. They get a leader to help out Ja Morant. Marcus Smart's always been a good leadership guy. What do you think about that trade as a whole, a 3-way deal?
Yeah, so let's just start with Boston for that sense. First off, that's a massive haul for Marcus Smart to get a solid center and 2 first-round picks out of that deal, that's a win for them. Like, I would have never thought Smart would have gone for that much. And I think that works out really well for them in essence. How much it helps them on the court, I don't think it's that clear.
I would agree with you. Yeah.
You know, I first off, my problem with the Celtics is, damn, they shoot way too many threes. So they went and got another big man who can shoot threes. And I think he's going to end up floating more on the perimeter than punishing switches, which is what the Celtics thinks are going to happen. He's going to run pick and roll. He's going to get a switch on him and go at him. And we're going based off of, you know, this was his first really good year in a long time, and his first year really being healthy for a long stretch. And I think that's an important thing to kind of look at. Is that going to be the norm for him? Or was that an aberration? And I think that's kind of what you're banking on. And I think for the Celtics, I mean, I won't be surprised if they end up giving him an extension before the season begins. I think that's part of the reason why they made that trade. We're not giving up Marcus Smart for a 1-year rental. I think they're going to try to piece him together for a long-term deal. I just don't think the Celtics are done. I won't be surprised if there's another move somewhere that they make. They need a point guard. They need somebody to get them into offensive sets. And, you know, they traded away their best passer in Marcus Smart, and I'm not in love with him as a point guard, but he was their best passer. They need somebody that can get this team in some sort of offense, and they need to change their shot profile. But overall, like for what they got from Marcus Smart, I think it was a win. For the Grizzlies, you touched on it. They got an adult. That's just a simple thing. They got an adult in the locker room. Marcus Smart's not going to suffer fools in the locker room. He's going to call guys out. That's exactly what they need in that regard. On the court, there'll be some questions about offense, shooting. I don't think he helps the half court that much, but he'll help push the tempo with everything that they got. And on the side of it, I thought Washington did pretty well. They got it. Listen, it's a 1-year rental, but I think Tyus Jones was a nice pickup for them. And I think, you know, they got off Kristaps Porzingis. Listen, they're going to lose these trades because of the situation that Winger kind of is inheriting as he's coming in. So he's got to say, like, hey, man, I just got to eat it for a while so that I can get this team, clear the books, and get us ready to roll from there.
You know, it's so interesting. We were talking about Bradley Beal last week, and I have no idea why the NBA didn't get involved with this trade, because this trade was completely unfair. Okay. You look at what the Wizards got for Bradley Beal. Okay. And Bradley Beal, I understand. He's a 30-year-old player. He's still one of the better shooting guards in the NBA. He still averages about 23 points. You would think what we were hearing from the Knicks organization when they were interested in Bradley Beal, we heard RJ Barrett's name. We heard Robinson's name in it. We've heard a couple of first-round draft picks for him. Bradley Beal, okay, for Chris Paul, who, by the way, we knew he wasn't staying with the Wizards. Landry Shamet, okay. Landry Shamet was okay last year. Probably, I would say, not that good, okay? They added a 2024 first-round pick swap, a 2024 second-round pick swap, a 2025 second-round pick swap, and you go on and on. It's all a pick swap. They didn't get any first-round draft pick for him, and Bradley Beal, to me, is an all-star every single year. That's how good he is. That is an absolute robbery. And by the way, I remember when Chris Paul was traded to the Lakers and David Stern stood in the way of him going to play with Kobe Bryant because he thought it was unfair. How does Adam Silver sit here today and say, hey, you know what? The Suns are going to get Bradley Beal, Jordan Goodwin, and Isaiah Todd for Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and a bunch of swaps that probably won't turn into anything. How does that make sense? Please sell that to me.
Well, I'm not going to sell you on the fact that this was a very lopsided trade. There's no argument about that. I think there's a couple of things that's a little caveats to it. One, the no trade clause that Bradley Beal had is what killed Washington with this. And let's just be honest, Washington created this problem. They gave Bradley Beal the super duper max last season and decided to throw in the no trade clause. If I'm giving you $250 million, I'm not giving you the no trade clause. He's the only player in the NBA to have a no trade clause. And then on top of that, the more teams would have been interested in Bradley Beal if he was willing to waive the no trade clause once he got there. He still has the no trade clause in Phoenix. So if the Phoenix wants to trade him, they have to send him somewhere where Bradley Beal wants to go. They have to get his permission to trade him. I think that played a role in the fact that there were just no other bidders at that point. Nobody was interested at that point to pay for him. So it worked out for, Phoenix gets a massive deal because of this. And, to go back to the Chris Paul situation where that trade was vetoed, part of the details of that is that the NBA actually owned the Hornets at that time. They were the Hornets. They weren't even the Pelicans. They were the Hornets at that time. The NBA owned it. So the other owners all looked at David Stern going like, yo, we're not cool with that. We own a piece of this. They're all putting into it. So they own a piece of it. So they're all looking at him going like, absolutely not. The only owners that were saying, hey, push this trade through was David Stern, because he was quasi the owner of the Hornets, the owner of the Rockets at that time, and I think it was Alexander, and it was the Bus family, because they were getting Chris Paul. Now, listen, I benefited greatly from it because I was working for the Clippers, and we got Chris Paul right after that. So I'm okay with that. So that's going to be fine by me. But I just think we have a lot of lopsided trades in the NBA. I think there's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I also think here's the thing: this doesn't make Phoenix that
I agree
great.
with you.
You know, like that's the thing. Phoenix still has a whole ton of work to do, and they're going to be handcuffed by all the contracts now at this point. And I think they're going to be in a real situation where it better work out with those guys, because they're going all in now, and they only got 3.5 guys.
They're also talking about trading DeAndre Ayton now. There are stories coming out.
They have to. They got to fill the roster out. You got to turn DeAndre Ayton into 2 or 3 guys. Now, I'm not a big DeAndre Ayton fan and all that, but he's their best trade asset, and they don't have much. Like, they're going to go sign a whole bunch of vet minimum guys. Guys, they had a free agent workout with Jabari Parker and Stanley Johnson.
What?
Like, that was their free agent work. Like, that's what they're looking at in terms of filling out the roster. And no offense to those guys, but like, what are we talking about here? Like, they need to go get bodies if they're going to try to go contend for a championship. You think Denver saw that and was worried?
No, I think Denver is going to win it again. I think they're the next Golden State Warriors team. They're young. They're very well put together. And by the way, they got another first-round draft pick in 2024.
Denver's doing a great job. Denver's doing a great job. Hey, we're going to get a bunch of picks that are going to be late first-round picks, and we're just going to try to find young guys, because we know we need to keep that pipeline going. We need to keep bringing in some fresh talent here. Christian Brown has been phenomenal for them. I think they're going to lose Bruce Brown in free agency, and that's going to hurt them, but they're just going to keep bringing in guys with all these picks. They're making a lot of smart moves, kind of preparing for the future, especially with the new CBA. I think they're going to make they're doing a good job setting themselves up.
Well, they got the OKC pick in 2024, which could be it could be a teens pick. And that could turn into a nice pick for a team like Denver, who, like you said, could just re-up on some of the young talent that they need. They have Murray. He's 100% first time in 2 years. They have arguably the best player in the end. He is the best player in the
No, not arguably. Yeah, he's the best player.
We
don't have to have a
And by the way, one of the ugliest players to watch, by the way, going up and down the court.
Well, I mean, it's dumpy. It's like, you watch him run up the court, and it's very
goofy.
low.
It's like the Goofy movie.
But the honest truth though is, like, when he turns it on, he runs, man. Yeah. He's out running Anthony Davis down the court in the playoffs and stuff like that. I don't think he's ugly to watch in that sense of, well, he's not the most handsome person, but I love watching his passing.
Oh, he's
that genius with his passing, and it's a beautiful brand of basketball in the sense of, like, hey, if you guys cut, I'm gonna find you. And he's turned Aaron Gordon into a star.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of an important aspect of it. And I think they're, a fringe all-star player. I don't think he'll ever make the all-star team, but like, he's on the fringes of it, because Jokic finds him with great passes when he cuts and makes great movements and things like that. That's what makes them fun to watch, is watching his creativity with it. We're at the point where he's just trying passes sometimes where I'm like, nah, he's just messing around now. Now he's just like, can I do this one? Let me try. And it's like, we're at that level with him.
Yeah, I think there was one in Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Yeah. He picked up his hand like this, like he's doing a dart pass inside, and then he did a bounce pass. It was like, what?
he had a pass in one of those games where I don't think he caught the ball. Like, I literally just, like, he just kind of, like, sort of just
pushed it,
rerouted it. It wasn't even like he caught it, just kind of like came in there, and it was a dunk. And it was just like, God, man, this dude, it's unbelievable.
Maybe he has telekinetic powers now, too. He's not just the Joker.
He's got something. I mean,
there's something wrong with it.
His brothers are goofy, too. I mean, all 3 of them together are goofy guys. So it's so funny. And the first thing he says at the interview after he wins the championship is, what are you doing after this? He says, I'm going home.
I just want to go home.
I gotta go home.
That was just so much fun. The whole like parade. No, I got to get to my horses, man. Like that's all. And he had a great time at the parade. It looked like he had a blast. So I think he's all for it for having another one.
I give him a lot of credit, man. He's some player. We are talking to founder of the jumpball.net, Mo Dakhil. If you haven't heard him, he's been on our show before. It was I would say about a year and a half ago. We went back and forth with Steph Curry. So why don't we get into it? Golden State adds, to me, the best point guard in this era. I think he has been the best overall point guard in the last 20 years. I mean, I remember when people were trying to Deron Williams in him. I was like, you're on drugs. He's not even close to the player Chris Paul is. Everywhere he's gone, he has made those teams better. He's never won a championship. I understand that. And a lot of people are going to say, is he ever going to win a championship? He goes to Golden State. Now, he's coming off the bench probably for the first time in his career. What do you think he is going to do for the Golden State Warriors? Is he a piece that can help them move forward going into this season?
There's a couple of levels to his importance to this team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think let's just start with on the court stuff. And I think the most important thing is he's a massive upgrade for the second unit. Think about what it looked like when Jordan Poole was on the court versus now what it's going to look like when Chris Paul was on the court. There'd be times where Klay Thompson would come off a screen, be wide open, Poole would miss him, and you'd have Klay just throw his hands up. There'd be levels of frustration with that. Chris is making that pass. Chris is going to help Klay Thompson so much this year in coming off the bench and helping with the second unit and kind of getting easier looks for Klay. I think that's going to be a huge thing right there off the bat. I think he's going to help with the young guys with Kuminga and Moody and try to help bring them along. Not the cleanest fit in terms of style, but I think Chris has to adapt more than the Warriors have to adapt to him. And I think that's going to be an important thing. And I think Chris is going to, because as you said, this is really his best chance to win a championship apart from that run with Phoenix where they went to the finals. Like this is going to be his run right there. And I think this is going to be an important aspect of him coming off the bench, doing that. I think he's going to have some time with Curry, but not a ton. But just understand something. Chris Paul running a pick and roll with Curry running off ball screens. Good luck defending that. Like that's going to be a disaster in its own right. And I think that's going to be hard for defenses to have to figure out how they're going to deal with that. There are going to be issues on the defensive end. But let's just be honest, Jordan Poole was way worse defensively. So it can't be that much worse, and I just think the vibes in general.
Nobody liked him. That's
the thing. I mean, well, that's the thing. Just go back to, I forget what game it was, but end of the game, Steph Curry got ejected because he threw his mouthpiece into the crowd because he was frustrated on a play where Jordan Poole took an incredibly bad shot. It's not happening when you have Chris Paul. He's too smart in that sense. He has the IQ. He's going to make the right plays. He's not going to be looking to gun for his own shots and things like that. I think there's going to be different opportunities for them in that sense. So I think on the court, it's huge. But the most important aspect of it is the Warriors got off that terrible Jordan Poole contract, which was inflated because Draymond Green knocked him out. Like, let's just be honest, right? It got, okay, let's just throw in a little more money to keep him there. And it worked out for them because, hey, if this doesn't work out, if it's, let's just say it's a complete disaster by the time the playoffs roll around next year for the Warriors, and I don't think it will be, but if it's a complete disaster, he's unguaranteed for the next season. Boom, wash your hands and you're free and clear. And now you're rolling again. And I think that's the important thing there for the Warriors on two different levels.
Yeah, I think I remember the game you're talking about. It was one of the early games against the Lakers, and he shot it in like Steph Curry range with like 20 seconds left on the shot clock.
And like a tight possession. It was like a tight possession. It was like a, final minute sort of deal and things like that. And I remember Curry just running down the court, throwing his mouthpiece and getting ejected. And it was just like, yeah, that was Jordan Poole. He was mad at Poole. He wasn't mad at anybody else.
If I remember correctly, you're a Lakers fan, correct?
I'm not.
Actually. Oh, you're not. Okay.
I grew up a Laker fan, but once you start working in the NBA,
I agree.
You no longer. I cheered for who was cutting my checks, and the Lakers never cut me a check. So in that sense, I'm more.
But your heart is with the Lakers. It's like me when I talk sports, and everybody says, "Well, who do you root for?" And I said, "I'm a Yankee fan, but I'll put the Yankees down if the Yankees stink." And you heard me say you were tuning in. I think the Yankees stink. Yep. The Mets. I mean the Knicks. I'm a Knicks fan, but if the Knicks stink, I'm wearing a Knicks hat. I'm a fan, but I'm not going to sit here and say if they're cutting me a check, when you do radio or you're an analyst or you're writing, when you become that, you can't really be a fan of those teams. You have to be honest.
But I'll just tell you this much. I don't have any love for the Lakers in my heart anymore.
I got you.
In that sense. Like the old Laker teams, I remember it when growing up and the whole deal.
Magic Johnson teams,
all the way to
Kareem.
Up until like Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I started working in the league and having a scout against Kobe, I hated the dude. So it becomes that situation.
I hated the dude too. So they
You weren't the only one. I'm sure there were a lot of people that were intimidated by Kobe Bryant.
Listen, may he rest in peace,
Yes.
because he was a fantastic talent. There was no question that he was. But again, I'm going to go back at it with anybody that doesn't believe that Kobe Bryant, when you look at his ratings and where they put him in the top 10, I don't think Kobe Bryant is a top 10 player of all time. I just don't. And for all the players that you have seen come out of the NBA, just like I'm hearing that people are putting Steph Curry in the top 10. What are you on, drugs? He is not on the top 10 most talented teams in the NBA.
Who's your top 10?
It's so funny you say that, because if I had the list right now, I could tell you. And I did it I think I did it 3 years ago, right?
You probably did during COVID, right? But we had
I did it 3 years.
Right.
I will tell you this. Kareem is definitely on my list. Magic Johnson's definitely on my list. Larry Bird is definitely on my list. Oscar Robertson was definitely on my list. Shaquille O'Neal, because of the dominance of who he was for 6 years, is on my list. Tim Duncan was on my list.
Jordan, I'm assuming.
Bill Russell, yeah. Jordan,
Bill Russell, Jordan. So we're at 8 right now.
James,
that's
9.
9. So you just need one more.
I mean, there's a ton. Hakeem Olajuwon. I mean, people forget how many great players. Charles Barkley, when he was a dominant force, people forget how good Charles Barkley was. He was fantastic. So when people try to say, "Hey, Kobe, the Mamba was the top 5 player," no, he was not. I'm sorry, he wasn't. He was a mimic version of Michael Jordan. That's what he was. And then with Steph Curry, nobody can compare what Steph Curry is as a shooter. He is the greatest shooter in NBA history. But if you look at his all-around talents, and this is the truth, is he a better point guard than Isaiah Thomas? He's not. He is not a better point guard than Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas brought that it factor, that mean factor to the court. And that's why everybody hated Isaiah. Even Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson and him were good friends until they stepped on a court against one another. Then they hated each other because Isaiah he had a mean streak to him. And he always put fear in everybody's hearts. I'm not going to say Steph Curry doesn't put fear in the way he shoots. He does. But Steph Curry, he played with three talented players in the prime of their careers. When you look at the Isaiah Thomas's team, okay, and Joe Dumars was a good player. I'm not going to take that. He's a Hall of Famer. Beal Laimbeer was an overrated player. And Rodman was a young player. He was just trying to figure things out when they were a dominant force. It really wasn't until, a couple of moves after their first championship where Rodman really stepped in. Isaiah was really the face of that organization. He was everything to that organization. Steph Curry, before Klay Thompson hurt his knee, I mean, you can argue that both of that Trey was better.
In a second, but yeah,
my opinion was Trey could play. He could play multiple positions, and he was a great shooter, and he's a great defender. That was the difference between him and Curry. Now Curry's a better player, but how much better at the time before he got hurt? That's my argument.
I'll be honest with you, Clay's career was made so much incredibly easier by having Curry on his team. Like, it's not even like everybody always says he has all these guys and he's played with all these guys, and we always just kind of take that as a shot at Curry. Curry elevated those dudes. Draymond Green's not the dude he is if he's on other teams. Because of what stuff that Curry does.
Overrated. He was always overrated.
But like even Clay doesn't reach the heights that he hits now, because just the pure fact of when you watch Curry play and watch teams in transition run after Curry when he doesn't have the ball, they'll have two guys running towards Curry when he doesn't have the ball. Yeah, that's how Clay's getting wide open looks. It's an easy pass from Draymond to him because Curry's on the floor. That gravity of pulling guys to that stuff, and that stuff that you can't quantify, and it's stuff that it frustrates people with all that sense. But those things. But if you really just want to just talk about it in this sense, go look at what he did Game 4 against Boston in the finals when the team was down 2-1.
I love when you say Boston. I love it.
Yeah. He does that. He goes out there and he dropped what, like 46, and just completely annihilated that team. The finals was over. The series was tied 2-2. The finals was over at that point because they had no answer for Curry. They threw everything they possibly could defensively at him. He's made it so that Wiggins is an unbelievable player at this point. Clay at this point is carrying Clay. At this age, he's carrying guys, and he was carrying these dudes for a long,
Clay
long
is not
time.
the same player he was.
He wasn't. He wasn't. And by the way, he's not supposed to be. He tore his Achilles and his ACL. You're not going to come back and be the same guy you were. Like, I understand Clay's kind of slowing, but even when they were both at their primes, Steph is one of the reasons why Clay was elevated so much in that sense. But we always want to talk about, well, he played with all these guys. He played with KD. He made KD's life easier. That's the reason why everybody hated that
KD
Warriors
made his life easier too.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand for sure. But that was the reason why KD came. That was the pitch. It'll be easy for you because they're going to have to defend Curry. And the same thing for Curry. It's going to be easy for you because they got to defend
Honest
KD.
to God, you think Curry's a top 10 player of all time?
I have him up there. I think I do. I still got to figure out my list. But here's the beauty of it, right?
You can't.
If you're 11,
really compare,
if you're 11, we're saying you're the 11th best player of all time out of all the players in the league. Like we're like it's apples and oranges.
Yes.
Like we're picking at the smallest things with these things and stuff like that. But
I have Kobe at 16. That's where I had him, and everybody was like, "You have him at 6." I said yes because there are so many great players. Everybody forgets how good Jerry West was.
I don't mind the Kobe argument. Right. I don't mind that. Like, there's a whole element of just sort of the inefficiency of it and things with Kobe and so on and everything that goes.
You're gonna hate this. I take Kobe over Curry.
I mean, you know what? You're never gonna have a hard sell when you're gonna take the bigger wing. This is a wing league.
Yes.
Right? Yes. When you're gonna take the 6'6", 6'8" guy, like that range over the 6'3" guy, like, yeah, okay, I understand that. Like in that regard.
And Kobe was an all-world defender too. So he was an unbelievable defender, just as good as he was offensively. And everybody keeps talking about that 60-point game in his final game. Let's be honest. How many times did he shoot the ball in that
50.
game?
No, it was the quintessential Kobe game. It was an inefficient game.
That's right. So everybody
it was the Lakers that before they drafted all the kids. Like, what were they supposed to do?
No, I'm not. Listen, he was retiring.
Yes.
I literally told somebody he's shooting every time he touches it, and not a single person should say a word. Like, that should just be the rule. Like, every time he touches it, he's shooting it. So I think that, I wasn't surprised by it.
So
like,
in that case,
Laker team.
In that case, when Steph Curry's ready to retire, how many times is he going to shoot it up? 100 times? 100 threes.
As many as he can get up. As many as he can get up.
Steph Curry's final game is literally just going to be a showcase.
He's going to score 100 points in that game.
Steph Curry's final game is literally just going to be a showcase of him shooting half-court shots. Just make that the game.
Just going to keep backing up. Like, it's not even that. It's going to be the other free throw line. Like, it's just going to keep going three-quarters court and things like that.
Oh, man.
Steph Curry has to announce whatever his final year is before the schedule comes out, so the NBA could just put a really bad team at the end of the season just so that results can happen. Or a team that would have already clinched that isn't going to play for anything.
Right.
Just to say, all right, we're only going to just do a game of half-court shots. That'll be your final game of your career. See how well you can do.
I could see the NBA doing that.
I know. I could too.
Adam Silver, he has the power. And let me tell you something. Those ears have the power too.
Oh, wow. Wow. We're taking shots at things that people can't control. Like, what are we doing here?
Hey, listen. I'm only speaking the truth here. And David Stern was one of my favorite commissioners because of what he did for the NBA. Adam Silver, everybody keeps giving him all these props for all the money that's coming in. The money is coming in because the players out there are interactive, social media wise. It's different than it was when David Stern ran the league in the 80s, the 90s, and the early 70s. To me, the game has changed. It's transitioned, at the late 70s. But the game has really traditionally changed. So you look at where the game is going now. Yeah, you're going to get more TV deals. You're going to get more endorsements, and that's the way the game's going. So I sit here and I listen to Adam Silver, and Adam Silver, to me, he should take the CEO job for Disney. They're already going downhill as it is, as ESPN is firing everybody, as we're watching guys like Keyshawn Johnson. I feel so bad for certain people that are getting tossed away like a piece of garbage because, hey, you know what? We decided to pay, and I'm not taking shots at Pat McAfee. I love the guy, but we decided to give Pat McAfee 10, 12 million a year. Here you go. Take the 12 million, take the 10 million, and we're going to fire this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. So that's the way the world's working now. Unfortunately, this is the way the business works, as you know, Mr. Mo Dakhil.
Yeah. But the real criticisms of Adam Silver is he's too player friendly.
Yes.
That's the more the more concerning thing. Like the punishments and things like that. Like the job punishment, 25 games, I thought was fair. I thought it was fair. I thought it was fair at this point. And I think we're kind of, I thought their PR going into it wasn't smart and how they kind of built up this whole thing. And then it comes down to just 25 games, which then leads him to being people going, oh, that's terrible. Where everybody at this point with the way they built it up, we thought half a season. So then when it's not half a season, we're all like, yo, what the hell? Like that's their fault in terms of how they built that.
It was horrible.
I just think the more important thing is just, I think in general, he's too soft on that with the punishments and things like that. I thought the 8-game suspension the first time around was too soft.
How about the 9-game suspension to our friend, Mr. Clown himself? And you know who I'm talking about, the guy that wants to get LeBron in Dallas, and Mr. Kyrie Irving, who was posted something, a documentary of anti-Semitic views, and then he's promoting it and having everybody read it and watch it and all that other stuff. And then goes out there, apologizes finally when he didn't want to apologize. Right. And then when he gets traded to Dallas, he goes up there. The first thing he says, well, I'm taking back everything, my apology, blah, 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 blah. And the NBA didn't do anything. They let him get away with that.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, they already levied a punishment. I don't know if they're going to go, how are they going to keep relitigating stuff? Like in that sense, at a certain point, it becomes very difficult because then it becomes a situation with the players union. And then there's a whole argument. The players union weren't happy with the 25 games that Ja has. And then the whole steps that he has to take to get back on the court or whatnot and things like that. Like it becomes a lot more difficult sort of in the lead up in terms of doing that. Once you sent the punishment, that's it. But it's even just the on the court stuff. Remember the Jokic when he ran over Markieff Morris 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. That was a 2-game suspension. That should have been at least 5. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, if we're really being honest, I think there's just an element with him. I think he's a little bit too player friendly.
Look what David Stern did to run a test, okay?
No, for sure. No, there's no question. Like, listen, if Stern was running it, it'd be a whole different deal where we'd also be at the point where we'd be like, that's too extreme. But I think we've gone too far the extreme the other way now, right? Like, we need to find something somewhere in the middle. And I think that's kind of what we're hoping for. But we'll see. I thought the 25 games for Ja, I thought that was a fair number.
Interesting.
It takes him out of the running for a lot of things, takes him out of the chance to have awards and things like that, which would also massively bump up his contract and things like that. And then massively bumps up endorsement deal opportunities, right? If you're an MVP, you have more opportunities supposedly to be able to sell things and whatnot. I think it kind of takes him out of that stuff there. So the punishment is 25 games and then that stuff where he loses those contract opportunities and things like that. So I think that was a fair assessment. And it was the first one where I felt like, yeah, that's pretty fair for where we're at.
Interesting. Well, we really appreciate you joining us as always. You know what I love about you? You'll come on, you will give us your takes on everything and even argue your points. And even if you think that we hate each other, because Speedy told me you were coming on. And he's like, you don't remember him? It's like, I do remember him.
You always remember. I remember it.
Yes. And I loved it. And by the way, you're a fantastic interview, and talking a little basketball with you really brings out the excitement of next year's basketball season. And hopefully the Knicks make a trade or something good happens to the Knicks and the Nets too. I like what there are certain things I like about the Nets going into this offseason. I like what they did with that trade. They really helped themselves out with some of the draft stock that they got back for Kyrie and Durant, and they're not protected, which is great. You see what the Knicks are dealing with. They're all and that's another thing I would love to get in with you, but I'm not going to get into it with you because it just makes me sick to my stomach. The NBA should not have unprotected and protected. It should just be.
I'm with you on that.
It's horrible.
Trade the pick or don't trade the pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's too hard for me to keep track of, and it's my job. It's too much at this point.
It's stupid.
I was with the Clippers, and we had a pick for a trade for Marco Jaric.
I remember that, yes.
And this thing was just it was like top 10 protected, top 9 protected, top 8. And it was Minnesota, and Minnesota kept, it was just, we were never getting the pick. And I think it was part of the Chris Paul trade.
Oh my God. It makes me sick. And I don't understand it. The Knicks could add 3 first-round draft picks, one from Charlotte, which they got the number 2 pick, one from Dallas, they got the number 10 pick, and the other one was Detroit, who got what? The number 5 pick. The Knicks should have had 2 top 10 picks. But because they're protected, they don't get it. It doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous. The NBA needs to clean that up because it's not fair. It really is not fair. The way the Knicks traded the 12th or 13th pick last year and gives it to Charlotte for their pick next year. But, oh my God, it's top 12 protected. That's not fair.
My favorite is when the first round pick turns into 2 second-round picks. That's always my favorite.
That's the Dallas. Yeah. Which it makes me sick to my stomach too. So it's just ridiculous.
Actively tank. Here's 2 second-round picks.
Exactly.
And that's another thing. They tank and they still get their number 10 pick. It's ridiculous. And if it was the Knicks, they lose the pick. Knowing the NBA and the way the NBA
but let's just be honest. If it was the Knicks, you guys would have tried to tank the game and still
You're probably
won.
right.
It still would have won. Like, let's just be honest. That's the way it's been for the Knicks. So
that's been going on for all the New York teams.
Well, let's leave on the positive note. This was a good year for the Knicks.
Yes.
This was a very good year for the Knicks.
And the Nets too, believe it or not.
Just don't do anything stupid in the offseason. That needs to be the mantra. Don't do something stupid.
Okay, so when we see the Knicks emblem, we put the word "don't do anything stupid." So DDAS.
So maybe we need to publish shirts like Joe Madden did for the Cubs.
That's what we'll do.
Don't suck.
I'm going to make a shirt. I'm going to send it to you. How's that? DDAS.
That works for me.
Don't do anything stupid. I'll put the Knicks emblem right behind it.
Perfect.
Anyways, Mo, thank you, man. Keep up the good work. Tell the fans how they can find thejumpball.net.
Well, it's the website, thejumpball.net. But more importantly, follow me on Twitter, MODAKHIL_NBA. That's where you'll find all my work. Most of my stuff goes to Bleacher Report. I do podcasts on The Athletic, and then I put out videos called One Mo Thing where I talk about one thing. So make sure you go follow me there on Twitter, and then from there, you'll find all my work.
Well, thank you for your time. As always, we'll talk to you soon, bud.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me.
Mo Dakhil. He's fantastic. He really is. And you want to know something? When we talk basketball, I get so frustrated not because my team usually stinks, but I look at it differently because basketball is it was my favorite sport growing up. I loved watching basketball. I was a diehard Knicks fan. And now when I watch the game of basketball, I'm not looking forward to watching basketball until the playoffs because the regular season has no meaning to it. It really doesn't. And it doesn't, the way the NBA works, now everybody makes the playoffs. 11 teams make the playoffs or something like that.
Yeah, top 10, and they have the play-in teams, and now they're going to be encouraged to do it more because the Lakers made the conference finals as a 7 seed, and the Heat made the NBA finals as an 8 seed. Both teams. So now teams are going to encourage to do it more, try to load manage and rest at the end of the season to do it more, even if they're trying to get to that 6th spot. You should try to encourage for the last game, which is why I was skeptical of Miami at the time doing that, but it worked for them.
It's just crazy, man. It really is. When you look at the league and the transition of the league, and if you're a sports fan, I will say this: the regular season. Everybody said baseball is boring to watch. I think the most non-watchable sport in the regular season is basketball. I can't sit and watch basketball. Even Christmas time or Thanksgiving time when they put the basketball games on. And, in Thanksgiving time, it's the beginning of the season. And in Christmas time, they play all the good teams. They play the Lakers, the Knicks, the Miami Heat, all the Golden State Warriors, all the popular teams. the games, even though they try to make them competitive, I don't want to watch it because I know
holiday,
it doesn't have any meaning towards the season.
Right.
So I could care less. I'd rather watch football.
Well, yeah, football's different because football, one, there's less games, so every game means more.
But that's what
Second
I'm
of all,
saying.
it's right at the end of the season.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to watch it. So it's just sickening. Okay. And LeBron James speaking out and saying the things that he said that he's going to retire, which I didn't ask him about that because I'm sure he has his own opinion towards it. But he did agree with me on one thing: the non-protected and protected thing for the draft. That makes no sense, and the NBA needs to clean that up because it affects teams. I mean, could you imagine if the Knicks had 3 top 10 picks? Mm-hmm. That would be, and they would have had it if there wasn't any protection on those picks. They made the trades the last 2 seasons. They should get those picks.
Yep. And that probably means Luka Doncic would be a Knick right now.
He probably would be. So it's just sickening. It really is. And it doesn't make any sense. But again, this is the NBA and this is how the NBA works. And Adam Silver lets the players run the league, which is another thing that we agreed to because the players run the league.
Maybe Adam Silver has to do an NBA Disney crossover, do an all-star game event where they make everyone ride a roller coaster, then do a 3-point contest or something like that.
Go to Disney and disappear. Seriously, you've hurt the game of basketball. David Stern, I wouldn't have it any other way. If David Stern was still alive, and may he rest in peace, he should be running this organization. Because this organization, since he has been gone, I thought Adam Silver for the first year, I thought, hey, this guy's the best commissioner in sports. I've watched him. Yes, there's money coming in. They're getting new TV deals. The players are making much, much more money. Supermax deals. I mean, look, Tatum's going to make over $300 million when he gets his new contract. Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Great. Congratulations to him. But here's the problem here. The NBA is letting the players run the league. The owners in the NFL run the league. They do. They run the league. There's a players union, but they run the league. Now, we all know about the strike in 1985-86, and nobody wanted to watch that. But nevertheless, the players wanted to get back on the field because they weren't making any money. So they pushed themselves through. When you watch that on 30 for 30, they made sure they get every single play. Some players didn't even step off the field because they needed the money. The owners run the league in the NFL. The owners run the league in baseball.
Way too much. They have too much power in baseball.
They run it. Even in the NHL, the owners run the league. The only sport that the owners don't run the league, as we've seen how many owners get fired because of just racist and attacks that they said either before years ago or months and months before it was heard because it was taped. Okay. Which I'm not saying they shouldn't have lost their teams. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have been suspended or something. Nobody should force an owner to sell the team. He should have been suspended. They should have fined him. They shouldn't have fired and said, you know what? We want you to sell the team. They pushed the owners out. That's what they did. And that shows you that the players run the league because that wouldn't happen in any other sport. Trust me, it wouldn't have happened in football. It wouldn't have happened in baseball, and it wouldn't. I regret to say this because I'll say this over and over and over again. It wouldn't happen in soccer either. I wouldn't regret to say this. And there's a lot of soccer fans out there that would probably argue that.
Snug, it was 2 owners. It was Donald Sterling and it was the Suns owner Sarver too, as well. That both got forced to sell the team. And I'm sure it won't be the last. Yeah, hopefully James Dolan sells the team soon. That would be nice.
He was almost forced out too.
Yep.
With the whole Charles Oakley thing. I mean, LeBron James opening his mouth, he was almost forced out of the NBA too because of what he said and what he did. And then LeBron taking shots and then the whole Phil Jackson thing. Remember that?
Yep.
I mean, Phil Jackson used different words and it didn't work in LeBron's vocabulary. And he took it to a whole nother level. And he tried to sink Phil Jackson as Phil Jackson was running the New York Knicks.
Phil Jackson sunk himself.
And that's why supposedly LeBron didn't want to be a Knick because Phil Jackson, so ridiculous. It's absolute ridiculousness. But anyways, let's get into some football. And again, we want to apologize for all the fans and to the fans out there that were expecting Packers rookie tight end Cameron McDonald. He will be on the show probably in the next 1 or 2 weeks. He had something important to take care of, so we could not get him on tonight. He did agree to come on tonight, and then at the last minute, there was some kind of plane situation. He had to jump on a plane, so I hope everything's okay with Mr. McDonald, and we'll have him on soon. So, but we had Mo Dakhil. He was fantastic, and he gave us good 50 minutes on the show. He was fantastic, and I honestly, when we had him on the show,
last year was the last time.
It was almost a year, a little bit over a year.
I think it was late July last year was the last time. Yeah, was the last time.
He puts on a really, really good interview. And me and him were just going back and forth yelling at each other. But this interview gave us a lot of takes on what's going on in the NBA, the trades and all that other stuff. So, and the NHL draft is still going on as we're on number 16 as the Calgary Flames draft. Hold on, let me get this right. Samuel Hanzek. That's it, right? Hanzek.
I have no idea.
I'm going to say Samuel Hanzek. So
they drafted somebody from Vancouver to Calgary. There you go.
Supposedly,
Canadian pipeline.
He's a pretty good player. I mean, his numbers are pretty good. So, young guy, you don't know what these guys are going to turn out to be.
By the way, the one you said you liked, Will Smith, drafted number 4 to the Sharks.
Really, he got drafted because I saw him fall out of the top 10.
Oh, they were saying the same thing about the kid Fantilli, who from Michigan, but he went number 3. So whatever rumors were saying those two guys were going to fall, well, you took the L tonight.
I'm going to tell you this right now. I've watched the kid play, and I've seen the guy play. Now, he's not Connor Bedard, okay? I'm not saying that he is. But Will Smith could be a 35, 40 goal scorer. That's what he could be. He's got good hands. Team USA. I've heard a lot of different people say that the kid has tremendous size, tremendous hands, and tremendous skating ability. So I think he's going to be a good one. And San Jose is going to have a good player. And it's going to take a couple of years, but I think the kid will be that type of player. He'll be a star in this league. So looking forward to watching him play. I like him. He was besides Connor Bedard, which everybody loved him.
Of course.
Will Smith was my guy. I thought, and the Russian kid too. Where did he go?
Yeah, he went to Philly. Matvey Michkov.
They say he is the Russian Connor Bedard. That's what they say he is. And I think he scored in the KHL. I think it was like 45 goals or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying he was going to be a top 5 pick too. He was the one that fell, maybe because of his size, because he's smaller, just 5'10", 172, but
fast as hell. Fast as hell. And we've seen a lot of these guys. Martin St. Louis. We've seen a lot of these guys. And Martin St. Louis wasn't even a first-round draft pick.
Right.
I mean, Theo Fleury. So there's a lot of good players, and even now, players that have been drafted that are really, really good players.
Yeah, Montreal just drafted Caulfield like 3 years ago. He was smaller than that. He was like in the 158 or something like that, 5'10", 158, and he's become a nice player in the NHL so far and was big in that cup run.
Listen, size doesn't matter anymore in the NHL, except at goaltending, which we've heard many different people say that if you're not over 6'2", you're never going to be drafted. And if you do get drafted, you're only getting drafted because you're that much better than everybody else in college or in juniors. So it's crazy how the game has changed. But what is he saying over here? What's Snug saying on here with Will Smith? Not only can Will Smith, but what is he saying?
Well, not only can Will Smith put the puck in the net, but he could dance, rap, and act. He's a quadruple threat. He's getting jiggy with it. Well, yes, we've already made all those jokes with the 2 Will Smiths that are in baseball right now. So
listen,
you're a little late on that joke.
If he's as popular as Will Smith, the movie star, San Jose has a good thing going on over there.
Yeah. See, Snug. Now the other best part too is why you're late on this joke is the Dodgers and the Braves have played a lot of times in the NLCS too, when Will Smith pitched for the Braves as a reliever, and they faced each other a lot in the playoffs. So you're a little late on that joke, many different occasions, Snug.
Yeah, and what's great about the NHL draft is, especially in the first round, you're trying to compare and contrast some of these players and what they're going to turn out to be. You can watch video, you can watch them play, juniors, you can watch them play college. You never know what these guys are going to turn out to be. And it's usually the 3rd and 4th and 5th round where you find those players that absolutely change your organization in hockey. There's no guarantees to any of these guys and what they're going to turn out to be, but it's fun. It's fun to watch the draft. I know a bunch of people that went. I know that Ashley Sarge is there with his new girlfriend. by the way.
Yes,
he went with his girl to Nashville, Tennessee, and quite a few other people I know went to the draft this year. We did get invited. I did not want to go. So I know I don't know why everybody loves Nashville so much. The city is beautiful, but outskirts of Nashville, Tennessee, there's nothing to see. So I don't know.
They have the NFL draft a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They're a great city when it comes to the main city part, but anything on the outskirts, why would you go to Nashville? If you're not hanging out in the city, there's no reason to go. Honestly, that's the truth. There are cities like South Carolina, North Carolina. You go to different cities. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of towns that you want to see on the outskirts. What is there to see? If besides the city of Nashville, what do you want to see on the outskirts of Nashville, Tennessee? Nothing. There's nothing there. It really is nothing. So I honestly, I've been there before. It's a beautiful city when it comes to, you like music, you like country music, place to go. 100%.
Yeah.
But every single bar has a singer, guitarist, everything. And there's a lot. If you're a single guy and you want to pick up a cowgirl or whatever the heck you want to do, it's a good city to go to because there's a lot of bachelorette parties that are held over there. They're fantastic. It's a great place.
That was the other joke. There was like one that got interrupted during the NFL draft. So whenever they hosted it that year, 2021, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Snug says, not going to lie, I love that it's possible for Will Smith to punch Will Smith, yet not hurt Will Smith while injuring Will Smith. That is very elaborate, Snug.
Thank you, Snug, for giving us the information that will put us to sleep. Let me tell you. We're still, Chaz, are we getting somebody else on?
Chaz, are we getting anyone?
Hello? Hello?
You're on solo tonight, or are we getting?
I don't know. No, I thought Jonathan was supposed to join us, but I'm right in the middle of my busy season.
All right, so we'll wait for John. I do want to get into.
Let me reach over to him, though.
All right, so when you're ready, when we see John, we'll get into it with you, and we'll do Let's Parlay. But I do want to get into some football conversation. The NFL Network reporter, an NFL Network reporter reports that Josh Jacobs could hold out during training camp if the Raiders don't give him a long-term deal. Like Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs signed a franchise tag worth about $10.1 million. The Raiders have The Raiders have until July 17th to give him a long-term extension. Jacobs led the NFL with 2,053 yards from scrimmage and 1,653 yards rushing last season, and also had 12 rushing touchdowns. Jacobs had a now deleted tweet on June 20th that said, "Bad business, potentially taking shots at the Raiders front office." Now, I'm going to say this very, very nicely because a lot of people don't like, especially when you're trying to compare some of the top running backs in the league. You don't ever hear Josh Jacobs. You rarely ever hear Josh Jacobs' name in the top 5 for the last 2 seasons. And yes, he's injury prone. The guy can't stay healthy. But when he is on the field, it's hard to argue that he isn't, or he's in a top 3 or isn't a top 2 running back in the league. The Las Vegas Raiders offensive line was one of the worst in the league last year. I think they were ranked 27th or 28th. They were bad. They were really, really bad. And if you look at Josh Jacobs' numbers from scrimmage and rushing, how many players had those type of numbers last year? As a matter of fact, I probably could say none, because nobody did.
Yeah, Derrick Henry was second. He was still 100 scrimmage yards behind Jacobs at least.
But that's what I'm saying. Tennessee had one of the best offensive lines in football. I think they were ranked, if I'm not mistaken, Tennessee's offensive line was ranked in a top 12, top 13, and they lost offensive line pieces the year before.
And 2 guys got hurt, which
Yeah.
didn't help.
And they still were a pretty good offensive line, as bad. And Tennessee didn't even make the playoffs this year.
Oh, yeah.
And their offensive line, at one point, their offensive line in the first half, and I think in the first half, they were 7-3.
They were 7-3. It was the same thing as the Jets. The Jets were 7-4. They lost their last 6 games. Tennessee lost their last 7 games after they were 7-3.
Derrick Henry is not a better running back than Josh Jacobs is right now. And that's why Derrick Henry right now is looking for a job, because he's still under contract with Tennessee, but Tennessee wants to trade him. Everything we've heard, they want to trade him.
Right.
The problem is there's not many teams that want him. We've heard Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook could go to the Patriots or the Jets. He's not going to the Jets, but I'm just saying. Dalvin Cook is available. You're hearing Dalvin Cook. Why isn't Derek Henry's name being brought up? You know why Derek Henry's name's not being brought up? Because nobody wants to trade anything distinct to get him. Nobody thinks he's worth a second. Nobody thinks he's a third. And they don't want to trade him for a fourth or a fifth or a sixth. They want either a third or a second for Derrick Henry because of what he has done as far as his numbers have been produced over the last 3 or 4 years. If you can argue Derrick Henry has been the best running back in football for the last 3 or 4 years because he's not an injury-prone player. He plays hurt. Josh Jacobs, he gets hurt. He's out. He doesn't play. But when he is on the field, he's efficient. And that's what you have to look at. If you would ask me right now, who would I want? Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, or Dalvin Cook? I will give it to you in order on who I want. I want Josh Jacobs at number 1. I want Saquon Barkley number 2. I want Derrick Henry number 3. And I want Dalvin Cook number 4. And there's a lot of reasons why. And one of the main reasons why I don't want Dalvin Cook is the guy, for the first time in his career, he actually stayed fully healthy practically all season last year. Derrick Henry is not an injury-prone player, but ever since he's hurt his toe and he had that surgery, he hasn't been the same running back. And Saquon Barkley finally played at full strength. He can play in any kind of offense. Saquon Barkley can play on the outside. He can play on the inside. He can do everything. He can block. Saquon Barkley could play. Really, he could be a wide receiver if you really want him to. So I would put Saquon Barkley at number 2. But Josh Jacobs is on a whole nother level from these guys. And people don't realize it because, 1, he plays for Vegas. And 2, the guy hasn't and couldn't stay on the field for the last 3 years, except last year. And that's why he wants his money. And all 4 of those guys are quality running backs. You can argue they're top 10 running backs in the league. But I'm just telling you the truth. When you look at the numbers don't lie. But here's the thing. When you look at the numbers last year and look at how bad specifics of those teams were, when you look at Tennessee and their offensive line, you look at the Giants and their offensive line. The Giants' offensive line was horrible. That's why I want Saquon Barkley. It doesn't matter how horrible the offensive line was. He still put up the numbers. And then you look at Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, his offensive line is really, really good. Yeah. That is a really good offensive line. But here's the thing. Dalvin Cook, last year, he had the number 1 wide receiver in all of football. And he still gave you the numbers. He still gave you the numbers and everything that you want from Dalvin Cook. The one thing I could say about Dalvin Cook last year that threw me off about how good of a season he was and how good of a season they had was really the close games. Minnesota was so overrated for what they were last year. The games that the teams that they played against and the division that they were in, it was a horrible division and it was a horrible conference. So what did they win? 13 games last year?
Yeah, they were 13-4, and all their wins, except for one of them, I think the first game against the Packers were 1 possession.
And they got knocked out by a 9-win team who honestly shouldn't have been there. If they played in the AFC, they would definitely not made the playoffs. The Giants would have definitely not made the playoffs. The deficiencies of their defense in the second half of the season, and really, Wink Martindale hid a lot of weaknesses in that defense. That secondary is horrible. That was horrible. That's why they drafted in the first round a corner, because they could not go into the season without a number 1 corner. And they had honestly had no pass rush. That's why they were blitzing the whole game.
Right. Wink had to really make a lot of the guys that were backups play well at the beginning of the season.
And that offensive line was putrid. That offensive line was probably the worst offensive line in football. Thomas is a top 3 tackle in all of football. And then everybody else was just horrible. From top to bottom, horrible. And that's why you would expect that the Giants would make moves in the offseason and in the draft, which they brought in arguably the best center in the draft. You can argue. So it's interesting. It really is.
Yeah, and you look at a case of Saquon Barkley versus Dalvin Cook versus Jacobs. They're all different in all different ways, because Josh Jacobs has the recency on his side where he just came off a year where the Raiders were dealing with so much turmoil with the other positions that
offensive line was terrible.
And the funny thing is, it's still better than the Giants. Like, that just says a lot about the Giants. But still, Josh Jacobs after contact was another big stat to look at, where in a lot of the games he did well. It was because he was breaking tackles himself too, and that's going to leverage a lot of value.
Especially in the second half. Derek Carr couldn't stay on his feet.
Yeah.
He was getting killed. He was getting smashed up, and then he just couldn't take it anymore. And he said what he said on the sidelines to Josh McDaniels and the team. And then they told him not to dress, not even to show up to games.
Right. And the other thing with Jacobs too is he's had issues throughout his career, not only with injury, but also sometimes with consistency. But at the same time, like Devontae Adams is the first other star that he's played with. Yeah, Darren Waller was in 2019, I guess, as the breakout guy, but he hasn't been healthy in 2021, and he definitely wasn't healthy last year. Now ended up trading him to the Giants. So he didn't have all that attention on him the same way. And that's where he's going to garner a little more value, because he finally, in a team that has all these other wide receivers, he could feel like a missing piece to a team. And that's why maybe Dalvin Cook still strived with the efficiency too, because of Jefferson, but he also had some years where he was injury prone and inefficient because he was running to the ground. And the Raiders did that too with Jacobs a lot too when John Gruden was there. So it's a matter of if you can match up the wear and tear versus the recency bias for what Jacobs' next contract will be.
I'm trying to find where the rankings were for last year and where they landed, but they weren't good. Okay. The Raiders were horrible, and I'm trying to get the list. Cleveland was the number one. Okay. Philadelphia was the number two. Kansas City, Detroit, Tampa, Baltimore, Chargers, Buffalo, San Francisco, Indianapolis, Green Bay, Washington, Rams, Cowboys, Cincinnati, Denver, New England, the Saints, Jacksonville. The Jets were 20th. Arizona, Carolina, Giants. Giants were 23rd.
Okay.
Vegas was the 25th worst offensive line in football. 25th. And I honestly, I thought Tennessee's offensive line was good last year. They were not.
They were bad at the end of the year, though.
That's probably why they fell
hurt
off
their rankings, because once Lawan got hurt and Ben Jones, and I think they had a kid that got hurt that they just drafted too. Like, everybody got hurt all at once.
And Minnesota's offensive line fell off too, because they were 26 last year, which is
that I'm surprised at, because pass blocking wise, they were really good last year.
I think this is all around. That's what I guess.
Okay. See, I'm shocked at Minnesota, though. That's surprising.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at the rankings of what I've seen over here. This was the 2022 NFL offensive line rankings.
Wow. So, I'm surprised, because I know Minnesota in certain years, Cousins has been there, hasn't had a good offensive line, but 2022 and 2021, that was not the issue with the team.
Where was Seattle ranked? Let me see this. I said Seattle, but where were they ranked? They were really good. You know, they played well, especially Seattle. I'm looking. No, this can't be. This is not right. This is not right.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might be looking at a different year. Yeah. Seattle's offensive line used to be bad, and Minnesota's used to be bad.
Because I know since I know Seattle's numbers were high. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, everything I knew, Seattle was at least top 12. Yeah.
All right, hold on. I'm just trying to get the list right here, and it's not coming up.
Is this Pro Football Focus you're looking at?
I'm trying to find it. I'm looking at one of the lineup. You know what it is? It keeps popping up in 2023. I'm trying to find the rankings. And it's not.
That's not ideal.
No, and it's not giving me the answers here. It's just throwing me off over here.
Because I was going to say, I would say the Vikings were probably top 12 at least, and so were Seattle, and the Raiders were probably, if I were to have a guess of 2022, I would say they were 20th and the Giants were about 23. I think the Giants 23 is probably fair, but I'm surprised. And then they had the Rams at 13. Like, what? Their offensive line was horrible last year.
That's what I'm saying, and that's why I'm trying to find last season and where the lines were ranking, but they're not giving. You look it up, Speedy. I can't find it. I can't find it. For some reason, it's not popping up, and it doesn't make any sense, but I will say this. I do remember Seattle being very, very good. Oh, okay, this might be the right one, because it says, let me see. This is it right here, I think. This is NFL offensive line power rankings for 2023. No, That is wrong. So I don't know. You find it, Speed.
I'm gonna try not Pro Football Focus. I'm gonna try Pro Football Network. Let's see what comes up.
Yeah, I will say this: Josh Jacobs, he means business, and I believe Josh Jacobs will get an extension. I don't see more than a year, but there's interesting talks that if he doesn't get that extension and he doesn't get a long-term deal, that he will sit out for OTAs. They have to give him that contract. You don't even know if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be healthy all season long, and you need your star running back to run the ball, I would say about 60% of the time. And he needs to be the guy because Darren Waller's not there anymore. You do have Adams there, but they're a different team than they were last year. And maybe even worse. Honestly, if you look at this roster and where they are, Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, he's not a better winner. There's no question Jimmy knows how to win, but he also comes from San Francisco, who everybody says that Kyle Shanahan, you could put a 15-year-old kid on Kyle Shanahan's team, and he's going to make you look good. So just because of the offense and the way he runs his offense. And Sean McVay, too, where everybody keeps saying that if Kirk Cousins becomes available next offseason, which more than likely will happen because he's not going to re-sign with Minnesota, that there's going to be a tug-of-war by the Rams in San Francisco. Why would the Rams, if Matthew Stafford is healthy, why would the Rams want Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins is not even in the same realm as Matthew Stafford, okay? If Matthew is healthy, you have a better chance of winning with him. He won a Super Bowl. Kirk Cousins hasn't won anything. How many playoff games has he won? One game. Matthew Stafford knocked off Tom Brady in the playoffs. Okay? We have seen Matthew Stafford beat good. He knocked off the Bengals, who knocked off Kansas City in the AFC Championship. So it's hard to believe that anybody believes that Jimmy Garoppolo is better. I mean, not Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, any of these guys are better than Matthew Stafford.
By the way, this is a ranking for Pro Football Network. The Raiders were 18th. I think that's a little more reasonable of what we're thinking. And the Vikings were 10th. So that was a little more reasonable what we were thinking of what the Raiders' offensive line would be. And the Rams were 31.
And that's not good, by the way. No. 18th is not good.
No, and they were better run blocking. They were horrible pass blocking. The Raiders this year. By the way, Chaz Dust said he has to go soon, so we're gonna go. We probably should bring him without John.
Do you want to do it tomorrow? Is it better tomorrow? Do you want to work on it tomorrow and bring him in tomorrow? Put him on. He's
Chaz, you're muted right now.
You're muted. Chaz, you want to come on tomorrow?
Am I still muted?
No, you're good now.
You're on.
Yeah, no, tomorrow is my son's 30th birthday. The big 3-0. Yeah.
All right, so let's go.
I only got a couple games to talk about.
Right.
You know, I like to hang around just to listen to what the other guys, because like tonight, his Orioles were playing, Jonathan's Orioles. And I looked and both the pitchers suck. So I said, let me bet the over. And just in case, I'll bet, the extended, the abbreviated over a little higher. And they scored like 7 runs in the first inning. So it was pretty nice. I won all my bets.
So let's go to a quick break, Speedy. Quick break. We'll get Chaz in and we'll get his 4 picks. I'll do my picks.
Yeah, I only got 2 games.
All right. Yep. You get your 2 picks. I'll do my 4 picks.
Awesome.
And then we'll go from there when we come back here on the Sports Lab Mounts.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouths.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, this is the Sports Loudmouths. You can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Sports Loudmouths, which airs every single Wednesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays at 7 p.m., Thursdays at 9 p.m. Great content, great guest, great callers, as we heard. Snug, no Jeff so far. We did have him call over and over and over again because I know he wanted to attack me, but I wasn't allowing it. I for one night, I don't want to hear his garbage that comes out of his mouth. We did hear Snug, and Snug gave us some good takes. I mean, the Max Scherzer take was he's out of his mind if he thinks Max is having even an okay season or even an average season. So I think he's crazy, but that's just me. Anyways, we only have Chaz on tonight. No Derek, no Johns, no anybody, just Chaz, as we call this segment, Let's Parlay.
Parlay, ole, ole, ole. It's time for Let's Parlay.
Chaz, what's up, man?
You know what? It's the USFL Championship.
Mm-hmm.
We had a good weekend again. I said it before. I really believe we're the best CFL show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I believe
You're the only one.
Oh, come on, work with me. Another 3-1 week. I know that number doesn't sound odd because it's Wes and that's his thing. I don't know. He has his 3-1 thing going, right? he does it a lot.
He must be winning a lot of money. I can tell you
He
that.
does well. He does well. So that one is Saturday night, right?
Mm-hmm.
8:00 Eastern. Where are we going to be? Where are we going to be on recording then when we do that? Will we be able to talk about that Friday?
Yeah, we can make it work if we make you guys on the show.
right.
Sure, why not?
But yeah, so it's Pittsburgh and Birmingham. We've been riding Birmingham all year, but Pittsburgh in the first half has been a cashing machine. I mean, like 9-1, maybe 10-1 now after last week. But it's 7.5 points, and there's no way I think that Birmingham is 7.5 points better than Pittsburgh. And I'm going to explain why Saturday night on the Sports Loudmouths. No, we're on the Sports Loudmouths now.
The Weekend Crunch. Yes.
The Weekend Crunch.
Moneyline Mania.
Yeah, there you go. Moneyline Mania. And then Monday, we got Monday football. See, I don't want to say too much because around this time tomorrow on the Worldwide Sports Worldwide Sports Radio Network, you will be hearing Saturdays in Canada. But I'm going to do some teasing. There are, and I'm really busy, so I appreciate the fact that I'm going to get those plays from Errol because it gives me something to wager on. I do a lot of grinding work where you just got to do the work. You can't worry about it, got to do it. So having action on the game on the side screen is really a pretty cool way to make it through life, you know? But yeah, so Monday we get so Canada is the first, and we're of course on the 4th, and Monday we get Monday Night Football here in America. And I've had many a 4th of July. I tell people all the time, the only action in town on 4th of July is usually baseball, and baseball is just a really tough game to get into, especially when you're drinking. I mean, if you're at the game, it's one thing, but I'm talking about at a pool party. You could have football on at the bar, and it's pretty cool, but baseball is just not the same thing. So we do have some summertime football. It's the BC Lions and the Toronto Argonauts, and I'm going to talk a little more about that here in a second, but let's get some plays from Errol.
Yeah, I will give you some plays. Obviously, tonight at 9:40, you have Domingo Germán on the mound and Oakland's J.P. Sears. If you don't know who J.P. Sears is, he was part of that trade just a season ago, which obviously sent him to Oakland. He is having not such a great season, obviously, and I like Domingo Germán in this game. He did not look good in his last start, but I think he will show up in this game. They are favored at a minus 155, but right now 7.5 is where everybody is going, over 7.5. Oakland's a bad offensive team, and they're pretty bad defensively too. So, But I'm going to go with the money line on this one, minus 155. And if you want to parlay this, I would say 7.5. There, I would say on the under on this game. So I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I don't think the Yankees are going to score a lot. I don't think Oakland's going to score a lot. I could see this game a 3-2, a 4-2 game. It's not going to be a high-scoring game. So I have the Yankees winning tonight at 9:40, minus 155 on the under.
I watched that game last night. Neither of those teams look like they're going to hit the ball anytime soon, do they?
Maybe if you just have the Mets pitching, maybe they'll start hitting.
I lost that game. I know I don't lose that many, but I lose enough. I hopped on over 1.5. I thought they got to score 2 runs, right? And then I hopped on the over 4.5. So if they tie it up, I can't lose, right? And then you guys, I'm assuming, watch. In the 8th and 9th inning, there were Yankees all over the bases, and they just couldn't do anything with it. They got who's the guy that came from Miami? Stanton, is that his name?
Yes.
He hit a blistering ball that when I was working and glancing, I thought that's it. It was down going to rattle around in the corner for an hour or two, but it then was foul. But he hit it so hard.
He probably leads the league in foul ball exit velocity.
Man, that was a rope. All right, who else you got?
All right, so we have Max Scherzer on the mound tomorrow against Milwaukee, and right now the Mets are favorite to win the game. Here's the thing: I was going back and forth with this game. Max Scherzer, obviously, his ERA is 3.95. His WHIP is 1.175. They're not good numbers, and the Brewers they're a pretty good team, and they're still in second place. They're in the worst division in baseball. There's no question that they are. But the Mets are just horrible, and they're not scoring. So I'm going to go, even though the Mets are favored to win this game at a minus 190, I have the Brewers winning the game on the money line. So there you go. That's my other pick. You have any other picks?
Well, yeah, I was going to get back to that game. Yeah, you know what? I was looking at the standings the other day, and it was amazing how you got the one division where everybody's under 500, and the other division everybody's over 500.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Twins just got swept by the Braves, and they were leading the AL Central. So they're probably like 3 games under 500 now.
Yeah.
Leading the AL Central.
And I mean, when you look at obviously Hauser on the mound, he's 2-2 with a 4.02 ERA. And his WHIP is a little high. I just think Milwaukee's a better offensive team, and I think they're going to score. They're going to outscore. And Max Scherzer is going to have one of those games where he's going to give up multiple home runs in this game. So
I was talking baseball gambling with somebody today, and I mentioned that the most underutilized aspect of betting on Major League Baseball is the first 5-inning pitcher. Because so many if you look at a guy's last 6 games and he's gone 6 and 7 and 6 and 7 innings, you know he's going to make it through 5. You got another guy who knocks out you good. Sometimes he gets knocked down the 4th, sometimes the 5th, sometimes the 6th. That's not a guy that I'm going to trust in my first 5 innings. And I had a few this week. Just the easiest winners. I mean, the team gets up 2-0 in the 2nd inning, and in the 5th inning, the guy's giving up a hit. And then 1 walk, and they're winning 2 or 3-0 at the end of 5, and then you catch and you move on. So who's your next one?
I have that was 3, right?
That's 2 for you.
I have Yankees and Brewers.
Yankees and Brewers. Okay, I have Tampa and Arizona tonight. Everybody has, these are 2 really, really good teams. Obviously, Tampa, who is the best team in the American League East, and right now Arizona is the best team in the National League West. I have Arizona right now. They are not favored in this game. Right now, it would be Tampa favored at a minus 155. Arizona at a plus 135. I would bet Arizona on the money line. But if you want to parlay this, the over and under, the over right now is 9.5. I would bet the under on this game. So if you're going to parlay it, because I don't think they're scoring over 9.5 both together. So I think it will be a game like 4-3, something like that. I think they're both fairly good defensive teams, and they both good offensively too. But they're really good defensive teams, and they have good pitching, good bullpen. Yeah, so I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't think they'll be over 9.5.
That's a playoff possibility right there, no doubt about it. Right?
Yes.
The battle of the 1998 expansion teams World Series. That would be.
That'd be pretty wild.
And then
so I'm gonna let me before you get your last one, I'm gonna just throw out some teasers for Monday night. This is Monday night Canadian football, Week 4. Toronto at home. They are the defending champion, and this is one of the teams, of course. Remember that our buddy Worldwide West, as you like to call him, had as a future, and they cashed for him. In their last 6 home games, they've scored 13 or more in the first half in 5 of 6, and they have scored double digits in 5 of 5 in the second half at home. They have scored in their last 3 home games, 1 this year, 2 last year, 99 points in 3 games.
Wow.
It's a lot of points. I mean, how many football teams lose when they average 33 points, right?
Mm-hmm. Probably an accurate depiction of the Vikings last year.
Yeah, there you go. All right, who's your last one?
Tomorrow, Houston and St. Louis, they're right now neck and neck, -110, -110. I have Houston winning this game. JP France right now is 2-3, 3.54 ERA, 1.256 WHIP, which is not very good. But I still think that obviously St. Louis, they just have not looked very good. And Adam Wainwright, I think his ERA is like 6 or like 7.
The Cardinals.
I'm on that game right now as we speak. I'm on that game, and I already cashed. What happened is, I don't know if you saw, St. Louis jumped out early. It was 6-0, and it was 3-0, then 4-3, and they hadn't scored anything, so it was 6-3. And I said I like Houston to score, so I went. Their team total was 4.5, and they scored 2 runs in the next inning. So I'm done. I already won.
I have tomorrow Houston knocking off St. Louis. Adam Wainwright.
So the Tampa Bay Arizona game, you don't care who wins. You just got the under.
No, and by the way, the St. Louis and Houston game. If you want to parlay this. The over is 9, and I think it's under 9. There's no way there's going to be 9 runs. St. Louis, they don't score a lot of runs, and they're not very good. So, and I know everybody says, well, they have great players, Goldschmidt, and they have obviously Arenado and stuff like that, but they're not having very good seasons.
No, they're not. But they put up 6 already today in 6 innings. So hopefully that don't happen tomorrow. All right, guys, always be cashing.
Thank you, my friends. As we call this segment, let's parlay. Chaz is gone. Let's see. What was my numbers last week?
You were 2-2.
I was 2-2.
Everyone was 2-2 last week. Derek even got his NBA draft bets.
He did win that one. I have to give him credit. I told you when I think it was during the show when we were talking about it.
Yeah, you did.
So he definitely got that one right.
I was waiting for him to be drafted number 11 just to be like, oh, 1 short again.
Derek is hot and cold with his picks.
He's still under 500, so he hasn't gotten the week to get him over the top. But don't worry, he'll have time to make up for it. He'll have time to make up for it during football season. But then again, so might everybody else. I mean, one of the easiest bets might be whatever Derek bets for the Jets, pick the opposites.
NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reports that Dalvin Cook has received multiple offers already. Cook is expecting a significant contract. The Dolphins are the only team that is known to have offered Cook a contract, but the rest of the AFC East, from the AFC East teams, as well as the Broncos and the Bears, are also interested. Cook retweeted a report from former NFL executive Michael Lombardi claiming that Dalvin Cook will be a Patriot. Cook also retweeted a video from the Jets tight end Tyler Conklin that said, "There's room for you in New York." There have also been rumors that Cook wants to play with DeAndre Hopkins as well. The Patriots and the Bills are the only teams so far that have been linked to both players. Honestly, I don't know why the Patriots would do this, but the Patriots don't usually go after free agent running backs. They draft them, and their running game is pretty good. I mean, they were one of the elite running teams in football last year. I think they were top 5. And why do they need Dalvin Cook? It doesn't make any, unless they're trying to keep Dalvin Cook away from Miami or the Jets, which I could understand that. But even if Miami gets Dalvin Cook, let's say they get Dalvin Cook, does it really matter? Honestly, Miami is that much better than the Patriots, and the Jets are that much better than the Patriots too. So stealing Dalvin Cook, you have all these other running backs on your team. You have like 3 running backs on your team right now, and you had Dalvin Cook. Unless you use Dalvin Cook in the offense as a wide receiver too,
maybe. Yeah.
I don't think this makes sense. Now, DeAndre Hopkins makes a lot of sense. It does. They need a wide receiver. Maybe this is the Patriots' way of getting 2 for 1, and DeAndre Hopkins doesn't want an extension. He'll probably sign a 1-year deal, so Dalvin Cook is the one that wants the extension. He wants a significant contract. So he's probably going to ask for a 2 or 3 year deal worth about 14 a year.
Right.
12 a year. And I don't think the Patriots are going to give him that.
No, it's very against what the Patriots like to do. The Patriots don't like to pay their own players at more premier positions that kind of money on a consistent basis. The only ones they really did it with was Gronk and a couple of their offensive linemen, but even a lot of their offensive linemen they let go of too. And you look at all the corners they had over the years, like these are all premier positions that Bill Belichick.
And the Jets don't need him either. They do not need him.
No, I think it's the same thing you were saying with the Jets, just leveraging more for the Dolphins to pay.
I understand that, but the fact that Tyler Conklin is speaking, I think the Jets should just worry about their team right now. They're definitely going to be looked at as one of the top 6, 7 teams in the NFL going into the season. And the Jets have never been rated this high. I don't even remember the last time they were rated this high. So the fact that they're rated as 6th or 7th right now going into the season only says that teams are going to be looking to play you. They're going to have their list of teams in their schedule, and they're going to have your name circled. You're going to be the prey this year. You're not going to be hunting the prey. So you're going to be expected to go out there and win games, close games with arguably one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. And you can argue that he is. When healthy, and if healthy, and with the team and the players around him, he should be a top 5 quarterback in the league this year in Aaron Rodgers. So I just think the Jets should just keep their mouth shut. How many times have we seen Sauce open his mouth on social media? How many times have we seen Garrett Wilson open his mouth on social media? Breece Hall open his mouth on social media? And then obviously you're hearing all this. I think they just need to stay out of the social media eye. It doesn't help when you're opening your mouth. These teams like Buffalo, Buffalo is not going to be an easy game. Nope. It's not going to be an easy game on Monday Night Football in game number 1. This is a divisional game. This is a game that Buffalo probably has marked on their calendar. They do not want to go into the season 0-1. They would like to make a statement against the Jets, one of the favorite teams. They're one of the favorite teams. They're going to want to make a statement against you. Why are you opening your mouth? Why are you talking? Don't say anything to put yourself at risk where these teams are going to say, you know what, we got to shut this guy up. We got to shut this team up. So I don't understand. I don't understand why they're speaking. And now, just so everybody knows, Hard Knocks seems to be going to the New York Jets. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. Flight 23 seems to be canceled now from SNY. I haven't seen any new episodes, which means this negotiation was happening 3-4 weeks ago, which is telling me that the Jets are getting Hard Knocks. Mm-hmm. So if you're a Jet fan, you want to check them out on Hard Knocks. If you like the show, I love the show Hard Knocks. It's great. It's great what the NFL does. It really is. All 5 episodes or 4 episodes that is played for the hour and a half of that particular team and following certain players on the team and coaches on the team. Great. Congratulations. And just to me, it puts the Jets center stage again. And all it takes is one player on that show to open their mouth. And it's going to set teams off. I don't think it's a good idea because they've got a lot of big mouths in that locker room.
Yeah, you talked about it last week as well with Kenyon Barner. Like, do you want the trash talking type players or do you want the humble superstars? There's a mixture of both, and we've seen a mixture of teams do it with both. The Seattle Seahawks, when they won the Super Bowl, they had the vibe of the loud team. Even the Broncos, when they won the Super Bowl,
Yeah, but
Talib and
they
Malik
were
Jackson, they were loud.
When they were loud, they were elite.
Yeah.
The Jets, even though the Jets were ranked in the top 5 in defense last year, that was 1 year. They have to do it multiple years to go out there and open their mouths. We're going to be the best. We're going to be a top 3. You got to do it back to back. And by the way, Sauce, who I love, he's fantastic. He was the best corner in the league last year. Sauce has got to go into the season this year, and he's going to be the prey. He's not going to be hunting and trying to show everybody how great he is. And to me, he's going into the season when these wide receivers are going to say, I'm going to embarrass this guy on the football field. So, I mean, he's a young player, little wet behind the ears. Do I think Sauce is that good? I do. But you don't want to get any of these top wide receivers angry especially going into the first game of the season when you're playing a guy like Stephon Diggs that's been all over the Buffalo Bills because he wants to see the ball more. He wants the ball run through him. So who's going to be defending him in week 1. So Buffalo is going to go after Sauce.
And in the same division, too. Sauce Gardner versus Tyreek Hill. Talk about loud on loud.
They're going to go after him.
Oh, yeah.
So it just I don't know why he's talking. And he's been talking a lot. He's been on how many shows? He's been on the Rich Eisen show. I heard his interview that he believes he's as elite as a corner is right now in the league. He said he's the best. He came out and said, Rich says, do you believe you're the best? He says, there's nobody better than me. That's what he said. And listen, he says, Jalen Ramsey's good. This guy's good. That guy's good. But none of them are me. And that's great. He has the confidence to go on a national stage and say that he's the best because of one season. You got to do it multiple years. Even Jalen Ramsey, I can't stand.
We know.
I can't stand him. But he went to Miami. He was still a top 5 corner in the league last year, and he doesn't shut up. So you have to put up or shut up. And that's what I want to see him do. I want to see him do it back-to-back years. If he does it, then I will shut up and I will say, Sauce, you can say whatever the hell you want. You want to put this guy down, you want to put that guy down, do whatever you want. Keep doing it. But right now, you're going to be hunted this year. These guys are going to go after you. These offensive coordinators are going to go after you because they know that the referees are going to watch you even more and tighter this year. Some people say that he was, tagging along and pulling on jerseys all season long, and the referees let it go by. I don't think they're going to be that easy to let him get away with it this year. So it's going to be interesting for the Jets, and these guys should not be talking. Okay?
Yeah, again, they get the mantra too. They're hyping it up right away, which I guess you have to do to some extent. But at the same time, we've seen teams like that also crash and burn. So it's a mixed bag, and the coaches.
I'm so worried.
The coaches are going to be the ones that are interesting to level it out because we know Joe Douglas doesn't like that kind of talking behavior, but Robert Sala's a fiery guy at the same time. But yet he doesn't want to have the cameras on Hard Knocks, so he knows his discipline too. And same kind of thing with Jeff Ulbrich. We'll be able to mature these guys enough to take that to the next level because the Jets have a lot of hype this year.
A lot of hype. And they have been so hyped than we've ever seen them. And that's what scares me. And I know Aaron Rodgers, I know everybody's like in a sigh of relief that Aaron Rodgers is going to be fun and this is going to be a fun year for the Jets. I just worry if they can keep him on the field. Right. If he keeps them on the field, if they keep him on the field, the Jets are going to be positioned to win. If they don't, they're going to have a lot of problems because if they're going to depend on the youth of Zach Wilson again this year, it doesn't bode well for them. Okay. It really doesn't. He needs a year on the bench. He needs to learn an offense. And obviously the NFL style offense didn't work for him last year. So And you saw what the quarterbacks did for the New York Jets. Multiple quarterbacks last year. They scored, I think, 14 touchdowns in the whole season. And it's crazy. They still won 7 games last year. It's really crazy. The fact that they won 7 games with 14 touchdowns, and they threw more interceptions than touchdowns last year.
Yeah. I think the only year I remember that a team actually did well, like that well, with like no passing game whatsoever, was the Vikings in 2012 when Adrian Peterson just did everything on the offense.
It was bad, guys.
Christian Ponder was that quarterback.
It wasn't good. NHL, the Jets traded Pierre-Luc Dubois. Did you like that move?
Yes, I mentioned the LA Kings as a potential destination.
Yes, you did.
Yep.
Yes, you did. What stood out to you with this trade?
Because I think the Kings needed somebody with a little more speed to help them out with the young wingers that they have.
They gave him an 8-year deal.
8-year deal, which, again, he was trying to push for the money that Bo Horvath got, and he got right around there. So, again, 24 years old, you get a guy with a lot of speed, and LA needs some more defensive forwards, too. So him going along with those other wingers, I think it really is going to work well with Fiala, Kempe, and those guys.
The Flames traded winger Tyler Toffoli. It just adds to the Devils' talent. I mean, the Devils are just getting better and better and better. Honestly, this roster is young. They're talented. They have goaltending now. I don't know what more to say about this. If you're a hockey fan, if you're a Devils fan, you should be very excited with this trade. They got a really good offensive player. He's not even going to be on a first line. He's going to be probably a second line player. You're talking about one of the top 6. When you look at the top 6 players, they call it top 6 lines. Well, the top 6 players. There you go. On a team, on the roster, they're as good as anybody right now. This is a good lineup, and their first 2 lines are going to be dominant.
Right. And they also get a veteran presence to help them out, too. Because you look at the Devils last year, they were top players all young all at once, with the exception of probably Dougie Hamilton and Eric Hall, guys like that. But now you get Toffoli, who comes from the Kings. I don't know if he was on the first Stanley Cup team, but he was definitely on the second one when they beat the Rangers. So there's a lot of playoff experience right there to go along with those guys.
Tyler Toffoli. So it's definitely an easy yes for that. The Bruins traded winger Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno to the Blackhawks for defensemen Ian Mitchell and Alex Regula. So am I right?
I have no idea.
But I don't know.
Ask Carl on that one.
I don't know much about this trade. I will say this. Taylor Hall was added to help Connor Bedard out. He is going to be on the line with Connor Bedard. Taylor Hall is still fairly young. Okay, so he still has a tremendous upside if you put him with Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard is a good passer. He's a good scorer. You put another prolific offensive player on that line, it could help Taylor Hall out. To me, Taylor Hall hasn't been the same player with Boston. He wasn't the same player with Boston. When he was with the Devils, he was fantastic. He won an MVP. So maybe this will change everything for him, playing with a talent like Connor Bedard. So do I like this move? I know what the Devils are trying. I know what the Bruins were trying to do. They were trying to clear money.
Yeah.
And obviously they cleared $7 million trading Taylor Hall away. But this could benefit the Chicago Blackhawks because they needed offense, and they added an offensive player with Connor Bedard that could put the puck in the net.
Right, and we've also seen Taylor Hall do well with the first year of his new teams pretty much all the time. Even when he first got to the Bruins, too. He was an impact player right away, and he was good in the playoffs that year. Remember how many goals he had against the Islanders even in the beginning of that series? Then the Islanders figured him out, and then he went downhill after that. But after that, he had the injury issues last year, and you look at the Devils, he had the Hart Trophy year, his first year with the Devils, but then he had injury issues there. So the inconsistency is not there with Hall, but he's still a talented player, and Chicago definitely needs that because they need all the help they can get for their number 1 pick.
So what do you think about the draft?
Yeah, the draft, again, surprising that there weren't as many trades so far. There were no trades in the top 16 whatsoever. But again, definitely surprising, like you were saying before with the Russian kid that went to the Flyers too. That it seemed like he was going to be a top 5 pick. And the 2 other guys that we were talking about before, Fantilli and Will Smith, I'm not surprised they didn't fall out. But again, you look at a case of a lot of forwards going early in this draft too. Not as many defensive players in this first round of this draft. It's very interesting too, showing how the league is shifting to offense right away.
What do we have?
Is this Jeff? You want him on?
All right, put him on.
All right, Jeff, you have arrived.
Are you guys excited for the Jets on Hard Knocks this year?
I just mentioned it. Honestly, I'm not. But again, if you're a Jet fan, I knew this was going to happen, Jeff, because I was telling Speedy 2-3 weeks ago. I said, I watched Flight 23. It started, Flight 23 Ascending on YouTube, and it airs on SNY every single week. And after the second episode, it disappeared. As soon as that happened, it told me that they made a deal with HBO that they're not going to record or do any more episodes for Flight 23, which told me they're probably getting Hard Knocks. So I'm not surprised this is going on. To me, the only thing that the Jets benefit on this is the last time they were on Hard Knocks, which I told Speedy, they actually went to an AFC title game that year in 2010. So maybe this is something that could help them and they benefit off of. I don't think it will. I think the Jets need to keep their mouths shut. I just said it. I was arguing about it just a few minutes ago. Every single time, every single social media thing that posts up with the New York Jets, somebody's opening their mouth. Garrett Wilson. We've heard Sauce Gardner multiple times on different shows say that he's the best corner in football. And then we hear Breece Hall. Oh, my God, come to the dark side. How many times have we heard him say that and post things? Conklin's talking now. These guys shouldn't be talking. Just play the game, practice, get on the field, get ready for the season because you're going to be the prey now. You're going to be the hunted. So they're going to hunt you down. And Buffalo's love licking their chops because everybody's talking about Buffalo, how much they lost in the offseason. They lost a significant amount. They lose their defensive coordinator. He steps away. So everybody thinks that Buffalo's going to be bad. I think Buffalo's licking their chops. They love the fact that they're playing the Jets on Monday Night Football.
It's a lot like the Chiefs last year. Remember, everyone was raving about the other AFC West teams. The Chiefs just sat quietly and won a Super Bowl.
I just don't want to. I don't want the Jets to go into a season and think that this is going to be simple. It's not. And even with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron is a nice boost when you have a guy, at the line at center, and you expect him to go out there and be able to do the things that Zach Wilson couldn't do, White couldn't do last year, and Flacco couldn't do. He's going to do it better than them. But if you're not going to protect him, you're not going to put the team in position to win, you're not going to win as many games as you think. So
don't you think that's a low bar? Aaron Rodgers is going to do the things that Zach Wilson couldn't. Do me a favor. Name one thing Zach Wilson could do.
Well, Zach Wilson won 4 games last year. He did.
Terrific. Which was what? One of the worst in the league?
He also beat Buffalo.
Name a quarterback that didn't win 4 games. I don't think Sam Darnold even started for 3/4 of the year and still got 4 wins.
Hey, think about it this way. You could say Zach Wilson beat Buffalo. Urban Meyer also beat Buffalo.
Don't get me started with Urban Meyer. The Jets.
But trying to sell it is ridiculous. Oh, he's going to be able to do the things.
No, the Jets are looking at it this way. And I think the players and the fans are looking at it this way. The Jets had no offense last year as far as throwing the ball, and they won 7 games. And they think with Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback this year, it's going to boost them up at least 4 games. And I believe he will. I think he'll give the Jets 4 extra wins. I think the Jets win 11 games this year if everything works out the way they expect it to. But what scares me about this is these players are not just being quiet and doing the things that they should be doing. They're opening their mouths all over social media, and that doesn't work.
I would say this, okay, without trying to antagonize you and whatever. Yes, expectations are a little high, but I think they're getting a little ahead of themselves. They're being unnecessarily cocky for a team that hasn't done shit. Like, I get that, like, there's, guys coming in and it's an exciting time and we got Rodgers and, rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year and all this other stuff. And like, you should be excited, but like,
I'm not.
I think they should also be a little more humble than they are.
I'm not excited because now they're the hunted and now they're going to be on Hard Knocks. and Hard Knocks, everybody's going to be watching the Jets because everybody wants. This is the first time Aaron Rodgers is actually going to be on a TV show, and he's not the guy that he loves talking to the press. I love what he says. He answers every question to a T. He doesn't back down from anything from the press. That's what I love about Aaron. But I've never seen him on a television show. He's not one that probably likes this. And now the cameras are going to be following him in the locker room and following him everywhere he goes in New York. That scares me. Okay. So, and I mean, just,
but he does love the cameras though. He has a weekly segment on Pat McAfee's show. It's not like he's avoiding it. He has his own time on Pat McAfee's show every week. Because
Pat, out of all the people that he can bust and throw, curveballs to, he doesn't do it to Aaron. He lets Aaron say whatever he wants. He doesn't ask silly questions. Yeah, they do. They let him say whatever he wants. So
but if he didn't like cameras, he wouldn't be doing it. He does love the cameras. He loves the attention.
Wait until HBO, starts to put a segment on him and how he's going to, really show people who he really is behind clothes. I think he's a great person. Everybody that we have interviewed that have been a teammate of his has said Aaron Rodgers is so miscommunicated outside of the field. He's the communication of who he is in the locker room is completely different. And he is friendly. He hangs out with the boys. He goes out to pubs. He hangs out at Walmart. He is like a normal American
so he's white
guy.
Trash.
Yeah, he's not white trash. He just.
Well, you were like, oh, he hangs out at Walmart.
Yeah, he does. He hangs out at Walmart.
Yeah, right. The beef hangs out at a Walmart. That's like the beef.
The beef doesn't go anywhere. The beef doesn't go shopping. He doesn't.
No kidding.
He just inherits all the stuff in his deli.
Well, no, I mean, I'm sure because of financial reasons and things like that, they only stock certain sizes, and I'm sure they don't carry a 3 or 4X at Walmart.
You're a bad person, man.
Hey, but think of it this way, though, Jeff. The Beav has all that money he carried over from winning all those Super Bowl pools.
Yeah, if it's real.
No, I don't know how he's going to react on a television show. That's the only thing that scares me.
We know he's a douche.
That.
Like, how many good people where their entire family hates them?
First of all, that whole story about his mom and his brother, to me, we don't know the full behind the story kind of
We know
thing.
that they don't talk and they hate each other. How many good people that their family doesn't talk to them?
First of all,
even the Beeves family likes him.
No, now hold on one second. Now we don't know if he doesn't talk to his family because the reason why he wasn't talking to his family and they didn't like each other was because what's her name again? Olivia
Wilde?
No, it wasn't Olivia Wilde.
No, Olivia Munn.
Olivia Munn. His mother did not like Olivia Munn, and they're not together anymore. So
who doesn't like Olivia Munn?
She did. That was the reason why him and his mother weren't talking. Because
even if you don't like her, just look at her. It's really terrific.
Obviously, I know what you think of Olivia Munn, but I'm just telling you that was the reason why he wasn't. I don't think that's still going on with him and his family. I think Olivia Munn is gone, and I think he's still friendly with his family again. It is his mother, man, and I don't know the whole story behind it, so let's not throwing things and hoping it sticks.
Oh, you don't like making wild allegations? I thought that was your thing.
You just love to stir things up, don't you? You do.
Aaron Rodgers was dating Olivia Munn. The Beeve dates Olivia Nunn.
You just don't stop, do you? You really don't. And by the way, the Flyers did trade center Kevin Hayes to the Blues for a 6th-round pick. Who cares? I mean, Kevin Hayes has not been the same player. I mean, seriously, came from Boston, went to the Rangers. Now he's playing for the Flyers, and now he's going to the Blues. Good for him. So that's why I didn't mention it. It wasn't that big of a story.
Mateo got his own Netflix special for a fake girlfriend.
I watched that. Did you watch that?
Yeah, we should. Yeah, I did, but we should get one for Beef. He's got imaginary.
So bad.
Wow, you really went there.
Trailblazers general manager Joe Cronin said they are committed to building a winner with Damian Lillard. Lillard has mentioned he would prefer to stay with Portland, but if he is traded, he mentioned the Nets and the Heat possible trade targets. Many reports believe the Blazers want Bam Adebayo if he is traded to the Heat, but the Heat want to center a deal between Tyler Hero. So it seems like if it happens, they want to trade Tyler Hero because of the contract that they gave him and the extension that they gave him in the offseason. Tyler Hero got hurt. He really wasn't a factor in the playoffs this year. So the Blazers also reportedly rejected a trade offer of the 3rd overall pick for Paul George, which is interesting. The Blazers drafted G League point guard Scoot Henderson with the number 3 overall pick. Last season, Lillard had 32.2 points per game, 7.3 assists per game, and 4.8 rebounds per game. Last season, Lillard had a 46.3 field goal percentage with a 37.1 3-point percentage. And at the free throw line, he was at 91.4. So Damian Lillard was one of the best players in the league last year. He's making the most money in the league last year. And I do not believe he's going to be traded after they made the move and they brought in Scoot. I know everybody keeps saying that Pat Riley has reached out to the Portland Trail Blazers. And we did also hear that they want Bam Adebayo. What Pat's trying to do is trying to rip off the Portland Trail Blazers, keep Bam, keep Jimmy Butler, and then bring in a guy like Damian Lillard, and then they're going to be favorites coming out of the East. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Damian Lillard, honestly, is going to move anywhere. I think he will play one more year with the Portland Trail Blazers, and if it doesn't work out this year and they don't sneak into the playoffs, he can actually opt out and be a free agent next year, which then he can go wherever he wants. So, and he doesn't look bad because he lived out his contract, both his contracts, and the fans shouldn't hate him because he's done everything he can to stay with the Trailblazers, but they can't really get over the hump.
And the other thing that the Blazers have to do too, or the Heat have to do too, is in order for the Blazers to make a trade for Damian Lillard, they have to figure out another partner to get Kyle Lowry's contract out of there too. Which is
my God,
very
which
hard.
is horrible too.
Yeah, it's one of the worst contracts in the league. So try and trade him, who's 36, 37 years old, is going to be hard enough.
Is he really 36, 37?
Yeah, no, he's aging really badly. And again, he's on that max contract. We talk about it all the time. Like, there's not a lot of good pure point guards in the NBA, so it's going to be hard to even get that kind of leverage to go for that. And Damian Lillard also said he wants to play with Bam Adebayo too. So if Portland wants to get Bam Adebayo in the trade, that's going to be hard enough in itself. So I just don't see that kind of thing working unless they can get a third team involved. Jeff, what were you saying?
I actually think I think Errol's right. I think Damian Lillard is it out for one more year, opt out, and then I think he's going to end up being a Knick. Rumor has it he was driving up the Garden State Parkway. He stopped at a White Castle. Someone took a picture of him eating a White Castle burger, and that was it. That was the restaurant he liked.
So White Castle is the leverage to the Knicks. Does James Dolan own White Castle too?
That's how this show does it. If you're not spotted eating in a restaurant in New York, it's not true.
I think he goes to the Heat next year. That's what I think. Either Heat or Boston. That's where I think he goes.
There's no White Castles in all of Miami-Dade County.
You're such an idiot. You're such an idiot. I don't think the Knicks would ever go after Damian Lillard now that they have Jalen Brunson. So I think they're looking for a wing.
I actually think it makes a ton of sense because what you could actually do is then trade quickly. I know they don't really like that idea, but it would also move Josh Hart back to the bench to be like a sixth man, which would provide them depth because Josh Hart was really effective coming off the bench.
Damian Lillard, if he's playing like this year, he is going to demand a pretty good 2-year contract worth about, I would say.
They have the money. They don't have any max contracts on that roster. Oh, maybe Randall, but isn't that ending?
No, he actually has another 2 years on that contract. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
right, so whatever. So it'd be 2 max contracts for 1 year, and then one of them would leave. That's not a big deal.
Yeah, but I don't think Damian Lillard would be the pickup for the New York Knicks. And if the Knicks are smart, they try. I don't know what's going on with Jaylen Brown. I don't know if they're super maxing him. I don't know what's going on with it. They said that they're going to keep him, but let's say this season starts off slow, and with the addition of Kristaps and where this team is going, if it doesn't work, are they really going to extend him? They might move him at the trade deadline. I don't believe everything. The Boston Celtics, I don't know if they're going to re-sign.
They're not moving Jaylen Brown.
I don't believe those stories. That are they really going to give him a supermax contract and give Jason Tatum a supermax contract. I don't know.
They're going to give both of them a supermax contract. And everything else has already been worked out. Rob Williams got the contract for another 3 or 4 years or whatever it is. Kristaps Porzingis comes off the books.
They're actually extending him. I've been reading that they're going to extend him.
They want to. Right, they want to, but like they're not going to extend him. I think what is he getting? $33 million or something?
Yes.
Right, so they're not going to extend him at that number. He's been hurt too often. He'll probably have to get less. Maybe not much less, 25, 22, whatever it is. Right, because he's just been hurt too often, and he's getting a little older. So yeah, Brown and Tatum, they'll get the supermaxes. They're too good of players, man, and they're also still super young. What? Jaylen Brown's what? 25?
26.
26.
And Jason Tatum's 26.
He's got at least 7 more years of prime years. Like I think you can call someone prime until they're like about 33, right?
Listen, I think he's a phenomenal two-way player. I just don't know if what Boston said this offseason that they don't plan to trade him, that if something becomes available that makes sense for them, they wouldn't move him. I just don't know if I believe that.
I don't think that they would move him. What do they need?
What do they need? I don't know. I'm not a Boston Celtics fan, so I wouldn't know.
They don't really need anything, right? They don't really need anything. They didn't really lose anything by trading Marcus Smart. Derek White can play just as good at defense and be in there. Malcolm Brogdon is a better shooter and scorer than Marcus Smart. I think he only shot like 31% from 3, which isn't great.
Yeah,
Brogdon shoots higher than that.
Listen, Boston, the Boston Celtics had problems in the NBA Eastern Conference Championship. They had problems against Miami. I don't think adding Kristaps Porzingis, if he could stay healthy and he could do what he did last year with the Wizards, and he gives you even a consistent 17, 18 points a game as your number 3 guy, it's going to give you a chance to win multiple more games in the regular season and probably helps you get over the hump in the playoffs. But there are going to be teams. There are going to be teams that are going to be better too.
I don't think that they really did have too many problems. Like, yeah, they played 3 games that they lost at the start, but those 3 games that they lost is because Strus, Gabe Vincent, and who's that other muggle?
Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson.
No, it's another guard.
Oh,
another little short guy.
Yeah, no, he was an H. I forget his last name. Yeah,
right, but like those guys went bananas from 3. And when they didn't shoot at a 50% clip, the Celtics were, first of all, 50% clip from 3-point range is ridiculous.
Right.
No one's going to beat that. And when they actually came down to shooting what the league average was, the Celtics owned them. And then they got an unlucky break on the first play of Game 7. Now, that's not to say the Celtics would have won, but it definitely ensured that they were going to lose when Tatum got hurt.
Yeah.
Listen,
so
anything could have happened.
Like the Heat went bananas for 3 games. Like, they didn't do that against the Nuggets. They only showed up and did that against the Suns. They didn't do it against anyone the rest of the playoffs.
They did it against the Knicks where they hit every contested 3 imaginable.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just run into a buzzsaw and the Celtics brushed it off and still almost came back from 3-0 down. That was an impressive run they made.
I didn't say that it wasn't.
They're still going to have Horford. They're still going to have Rob Williams. Old Lobert, got to love him, right? They got Porzingis coming in there. Tatum, Brown, maybe Peyton Pritchard can step up and be the 3rd guard in that 3-guard rotation now. It's not all that bad.
Listen, Boston, they got Kristaps and they got 2 first-round draft picks. I mean, that was a steal. I mean, Brad Stevens looked like a genius on that trade.
Except for not drafting Amani Bates like Jeff wanted.
Oh, I wanted Amani to believe me. God damn.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted Amani Bates. It's so rare that you can draft a dude in the 2nd round with that kind of upside. I just don't understand why more teams didn't do it.
We'll see. Maybe there was something inside that we didn't know about the whole.
He loves guns.
Amani Bates. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the Grizzlies should have drafted. They could be twins with John Morant.
Yeah. Which, by the way,
I actually think that's why the Celtics actually got a pretty good deal with Memphis. Is because of the John Morant situation.
Yeah, probably.
They don't know. Like, let's be honest, their team fell apart because they had 0 point guard when Ja was out shooting guns or whatever he was doing.
Right.
And at least Marcus Smart shows up, plays hard, and say what you want. He's a leader. He's a pretty good leader people listen to. So
And having Marcus Smart off the bench on your second team is pretty damn good. I think
pretty damn good.
It's pretty damn good. And Memphis is going to be a team to be reckoned with next year. They're a good defensive team as it is. Now you add Marcus Smart as a guard who's a really good defender. So it's going to be interesting. In the Western Conference, with all the different moves that you've seen so far, and it's not done. I still think there could be moves being made, especially with some of these Eastern Conference teams. There are stories coming out with Cleveland that there's particular things been going on for the last couple of days. I don't know what it is. There was a Cleveland radio show on ESPN talking about it. They had two analysts on one from the NBA and one from the ESPN, and both of them said there's a lot of stuff going on, but they cannot mention it because they could lose their job doing it. So they know something that's going on, but they can't talk about it. So
Dylan Brooks to the Knicks.
No, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
We don't need the Knicks having coming out with immaturity.
Again,
that's what we need. We need Dylan Brooks to the Knicks. That's the only
for what?
thing that will complete
To
it.
trip people?
For what?
In fact, he was the one driving the car and had Damian Lillard that stopped at the White Castle.
Goodbye, Jeff.
I mean, it was just great to see. I think that would be a good move. You don't?
I think you're out of your mind. Thank you, Jeff.
This is an amazing time to be a New York sports fan. You guys got Hard Knocks, Knicks drama finally. When was the last time you had any Knicks drama? Never.
We always have Knicks drama, just not usually for the better.
Well, right. That's what I'm right. It's always Leon Rose stinks or Dolan stinks or whatever.
Usually Dolan.
Right, but now this team's a playoff team. Now it's
We'll
like
see.
the drama. Oh, we're all interested.
We'll see. I don't know what they're going to. They have to do something this offseason. They cannot go into the season with what they have and think, hey, you know what? We can compete. We can compete with Boston now. Miami's going to get better because they're not done.
But what's on that free agent list that you want and need?
That's a
Chris
good question.
Middleton? Is Chris Middleton a guy?
No, they don't. They need a power.
Honestly, what I think they should be all in and trying to get Zion Williamson. I don't know if the Pelicans are interested in moving him.
That's a terrible move.
I know that's what you're going to say, but I just think Zion doesn't want to play for the Pelicans, and that's why he's been injury prone. I think if they make a move for him and he comes to New York, I think he'd be a big player for the Knicks. So that's just my opinion.
He's already big.
No, I'm not talking about
yes,
that.
we know.
I'm not talking about that, you idiots. I'm talking
And that
about
would be another problem. You want a dude that big in a place with that many restaurants? That's a problem.
Maybe he'll get all the White Castle burgers, so Damian Lillard doesn't have to eat.
Hey, listen, as long as he's on my team and he's helping us win, he can eat whatever he wants.
And he's perpetually hurt. Is that what you want?
Well, first of all, we don't know the whole story. We know that he doesn't want to be with the Pelicans. He took the $193 million because who wouldn't? And I believe he wasn't as hurt as everybody says he was this year. I just don't think he wants to be there. I don't.
I mean, but there's also the other issue because he tried to come back, but he was so fat and out of shape that he literally missed games. They should have just listed it as cholesterol. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they should have listed. Like, he was missing games because he wasn't in shape. Imagine being a professional athlete and being that fat. You don't think that's a problem? You don't think in a sport where conditioning is important and running is a thing?
I think that if I were the Knicks, I would take a chance with him because I think that if you can keep RJ Barrett there and he's there, they're really close, and I think they'll compete with one another, and they'll want to be on the court playing with one another. So I think it would be a good thing for the Knicks. I do. I don't know what – when Zion's on the court, he's unbelievable. He's a great player. It's the injury-prone thing, but I do believe he does not want to be with the Pelicans.
The injury thing is in part due to weight?
Listen, with the Knicks, he's still young, and you can take a chance with him. If you take a chance with him, you can absolutely hit it out of the ballpark with him.
That's not the question. You're dodging the question. The question, once again, is
I'm not answering.
Don't you think the injury problem is also in part due to his weight?
I don't know. If you want to say that it is, fine, it is. But I don't know if that's the truth. Because we've seen so many other players that are tall and thin that get injured and get injured again and get injured. Kristaps Porzingis is being one of them. Okay, he's an injury-prone player. That's the truth.
Actually, he is, but I'm hopeful for Kristaps because the injuries were due to wear and tear, and they're going to do at center and power forward what the Celtics did with guard, which was a 3-man rotation. So hopefully with less minutes, he can equally be as productive, but maybe with less wear and tear on the ball. Look, it may not happen, but that's what I'm hoping at least. It worked for Malcolm Brogdon, by the way, who was always injury prone. He stayed healthy the whole year.
Here's the thing. If you were to argue right now, who would you rather on your roster when healthy, Zion Williamson or Kristaps Porzingis? There is no argument you would want Zion Williamson because he can change the whole value of the game, and he's that good. You know, so
right, but in the last 3 years, how many games has he played?
He played a full season in 2021, but then he missed the entire
been in the league 3 years, right?
He's been in the league 4 years. He missed the entire 2021-2022 season, so that hurts it. And then I would say, so if you're judging the last 3 years, I would guess something like 95 or something like that.
I will tell you in just 1 second when I get his stats up.
Stark says, I heard Zion wants his own private buffet for every next game.
He's played in.
How many played last year?
I'm going to give you the numbers right now. He's played 114 games
in 4 seasons.
In 3 seasons.
In 3 seasons.
No, he missed the entire 21-22 season, so it's the equivalent of 3 seasons.
3 seasons, yeah,
but technically 4. Yeah,
I would say. Hold on.
Right, but because of injury, so he missed a whole season because of injury.
Yes.
Yeah, he missed it.
Right, so those games count.
2, 3.
So in 4 years, how many games?
So 114.
Yeah,
114.
So 114 in 4 seasons, and there's 82 games a season. So so he plays out 1 out of every 4 games.
Yes, but I also believe this year, playing only 29 games. The reason why he played only 29 games because he didn't want to be there. And a lot of people have said that. He sat out a lot because he did not want to be there. So
I mean, that could be true, but he was also out because he was hurt.
Possibly, yeah.
Right, and maybe he didn't want to put him back, but he was out because he was also fat and out of shape. Because they worked him out to try to get him back in the lineup. And if you remember, they were like, oh, he's just not ready. You know? Like, that's being so out of shape that you can't come back. And then it just got so late in the year that they were like, there's no point now. And now he spent a whole off season impregnating 12 women and having it all blown up on Twitter. Right?
I
don't think he's seen the inside of a gym.
Whatever. If you were to ask me right now, what do I want? I would take a chance with Zion Williamson because it could be a win-win situation for the Knicks. I mean, am I wrong, Speedy?
I mean, what would they have to give up, though?
That's a good question. They would have to give up at least 3 first-round draft picks for him because that's what his value is.
And probably players.
Yeah, they would probably have to give up at least Quigley and somebody else, Obi Toppin. I would say Quigley, Obi Toppin, and 3 first-round draft picks would get you Zion Williamson.
So you're going to give up Obi Toppin because they're kind of the same position.
Yes.
You'd give up Obi Toppin, who is available and that you want to develop for a guy that plays 1 out of every 4 games.
Because he could be a game changer. Zion Williamson could be a game changer for the Knicks. And then it gives you a reason to trade a guy like Randall and get something back for Randall. That's what I would
be a game changer when you're you're sitting at the snack bar at MSG.
I don't know.
Pretty hard.
I don't know.
The one they should have been in on. Was I forget where he got traded, but they should have been in on John Collins.
He went to Utah, yeah, for practically nothing. Yeah, they could have definitely done something good with that because Atlanta only got Rudy Gay in a 2nd-round pick. Like the Knicks could have just.
I can't believe Rudy Gay's still playing in the NBA.
The Knicks could have traded Fournier in a 2nd-round pick.
How old is Rudy Gay? I mean,
he's probably right up with Kyle Lowry.
I gotta be honest. How is John Collins worth so little?
I know. I didn't get that.
I think John Collins is a pretty good player.
Yeah, he's bad for his contract, but again, yeah, you're right. He does have upside, especially as a 3-point
Utah
shooter.
is a good young team. They have a bunch of good young players, and Utah played very well in the beginning of the season.
Again.
Well, we'll see. Danny Ainge does steal players from people, that's for sure, and he doesn't like
and
to give
4
up.
first-round picks from Minnesota.
Right, but even if John Collins sits on the bench for Rudy Gay in a 2nd-round pick, it's gonna be a win.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Right? Like how hard is it for that to be a win?
Right.
Yeah, listen, Danny Ainge don't like to give away players, and he gets a lot for those players, and then he trades for players that are worth more than what he gets them for. So that's Danny Ainge for you.
I mean, that's a phenomenal deal, dude.
Yeah,
That's a phenomenal deal.
Please, I don't want to talk about Danny Ainge. It makes me
Stuck
sick.
says Rudy Gay just turned 400 years old. So Stuck, in your analogy, how old is Kyle Lowry then?
No, Rudy Gay is old, man.
No, I know.
I remember when he was drafted, man. He's a good player. He really was. His whole career, watching it play, I think he played for UConn, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And he came from UConn, but he is a great defender, great two-way player. He was never a great offense, but a great two-way player. He just never he never stood out. But for the career that he has had, the distance and as long as he played 20 years, he has to play 20 years. You know,
If it's not, it's like 17 or something.
yeah, it's a long time. Rudy Gay's been in the league a long
Hey,
time.
since you mentioned UConn, can we just talk about this for 1 second? How stunned are you? Adam Sanogo did not get drafted.
It's the way the league is now. They don't really like a lot of the true centers. The Shabiwe didn't get drafted either from Kentucky. So
Yeah, but Shibwe is just a fat pig that can only rebound.
No, I know.
like
I agree.
Sanogo
Sanogo's
can
better.
move and-
I'm not disputing that. I think it's just the wave of the league. It's also the NBA draft. It's only 2 rounds. It's not like other sports that have like the NFL is 7, the NHL is 6 or whatever, and MLB is a ton. I think that also hurts it too, with just only being 2 rounds.
Right, but it's a number of rounds. It's a number of rounds based on people that are there, right? Because like if you do the math and you just extrapolate it out, there's less people drafted in the NFL per roster than there is in the NBA.
Well, yeah, based on total roster size, yeah, but still, I just think for the overall value, you're going to get a lot of players that had high accolades in college basketball just not get drafted in the NBA just because of their positional just limitations and skill limitations.
You're gonna tell me no one could use a 7-footer that can run and jump and rebound and block, make blocks, and so like the Big East Player of the Year has no place in the NBA.
Well, I think somebody's going to pick him up. Obviously, there are going to be teams that are interested in him. If they're not, look it up, Speedy. I bet somebody picked him up already. So I understand what you're saying.
Oh yeah, there was a bunch of guys that got.
I know the Knicks picked up 2 or 3 players. So, and they didn't even have picks, and you never know what you can get off the scrap heap. So,
and if using
Chicago signed him.
Chicago,
right? But if using the modern NBA game, guys need to shoot. Then tell me why didn't Drew Timme get drafted?
That's another one
because he's like a 6-year senior. He's probably too old to be a draft pick at this point.
Dude,
I love the guy. He's one of the most fun players to watch in college basketball.
Right, you're going to say a 6-year guy from Gonzaga is too old, but we just mentioned a trade with Rudy Gay involved. Get out of here, bro! Like, come on, dude.
Obi Toppin was 24 when he started.
No, I know. I'm not saying it's the right approach necessarily to get not the player. I just don't know with like. Drew
Timme can knock down threes.
Oh no, Timmy's a fantastic player. I'm not disputing that. I think it's more of just the way the NBA they want bigger, faster right away athletic wings, and they can develop the threes, or they want the guys that can shoot the threes well right away. And I think because of that, and just because of the size of the draft, there's just limitations.
Right, but like I can understand Shibwe not getting drafted because he literally has 0 offensive game. Like there's no offensive value to him whatsoever. You can't say the same for Sanogo and Timme.
No, I'm not saying that either. I think what it is just for that type of position, they're trying to value more Kristaps Porzingis like players is the wave of the league now, and less of the I wouldn't say Sanogo's like a true center, but the way his body is built and like that kind of size, he's closer to that. And maybe they don't think maybe for that level of a pick, it's going to translate to the NBA standards.
I don't know, man. If Julius Randle can be on a roster, Adama Sanogo can be on a roster.
I would agree with you. Yeah, I would agree with you.
I mean, it's just insanity, bro. Like how, like he just single-handedly dragged this team to an NCAA championship, and then you're going to tell me that every other player in college is better than the guy that just not rubbed all their dicks in the dirt? Like that's crazy.
Well,
it's college also plus the G League, which had a lot this year.
Well, the Bulls actually would probably benefit from it. So there you go. So if you're a Bulls fan,
they just signed Vucevic.
They just re-signed Vucevic. Yep.
Good for him. Good for them because Vucevic is a good player.
Yeah. But they got him on a much more team-friendly deal, though, which is helpful. Snuck says
that team is cursed.
Snuck says, I heard the Knicks scooped PJ Perry this offseason in a stunning move.
Hey,
I'm sure Niffin will love it.
Did you see the bomb EJ Perry?
Yes, Jeff, you tagged me in it on Twitter. I saw it. I'm sure Niffin was having his moment.
Dude, he threw for 370 yards in that game.
Yep. And now Niffin's probably pushing, NFL team, sign him up.
I just thought it was a great moment for a guy that's never going to play in the NFL.
Thank you, Jeff.
We should put that dude on the sub down to the Titanic.
Oh God, here we go. Thank you,
What?
Jeff.
We should throw the Beeve on there too.
Oh God.
Leave the Beeve alone.
We'll get a GoFundMe for his ticket. I'm sure every one of his neighbors pitch in.
Goodbye, Jeff.
All right, cheers, boys.
He's fucking so stupid. Oh my God. Don't we love him?
Well, that was about like 5 different shots of the Beef there. And we got our daily shot of EJ Perry while we're at it. The only thing we didn't get was Michigan. Any shots at Michigan. Stuck says that is a bad day when your dick gets rubbed in the dirt. Yes, it probably would be.
There you go. Anyways, are you ready, Speedy?
Yes, it is time for Bracket Wars.
It's time for bracket.
Bracket.
It's time for bracket wars.
So 2 matchups today in the second round. Your number 14 seed GSP did advance, and he will take on Roger Federer in one matchup. And then we got Deion Sanders, number 9, against Michael Jordan, the number 1 seed. So we'll do GSP and Federer first.
Oh man, this is going to be a good one. GSP has a 26-2 overall UFC record. 8 of those wins are knockout. GSP is a 3-time UFC welterweight champion and was ranked number 1 in the welterweight division from 2008 to 2015. GSP holds the record for his weight class for most wins in a title bout. GSP is the second all-time in his weight class, right under Matt Hughes, for most consecutive days holding the championship title. GSP had 9 consecutive wins in his fights where he defended a welterweight championship belt. GSP, to me, is one of the most underrated fighters in UFC history. You can argue when you say Royce Gracie and then Anderson Silva and John Jones. You can put GSP right between those guys. He was that good. He was that dominant. And Matt Hughes was the only one that held the belt longer than him. And Matt Hughes didn't really have that much competition when he held that belt as long as he did. I mean, GSP was the best welterweight champion of all time in UFC history. You can't argue that. And really, the dominance on the bouts, he fought a lot of guys. He fought Nick Diaz at the top of his game. He fought BJ Penn at the top of his game. This guy is as good as anybody. And if you look at the fighters that he's beat in the time that he was dominant, he beat some of the best welterweights of all time. So GSP, one of the greatest fighters of this era, one of the greatest fighters of all time.
Yeah, I think you even said when we had Warren Brinson on the show that that weight class as a whole, too, might be the best in UFC history, you think? Yeah, so
probably.
Like that's a lot of good competition right there. And to hold it for 9 straight consecutive fights, too, is very impressive stat in itself. Because, again, there's going to be some pressure to try to hold that kind of thing that long, too. And eventually you think, okay, something's going to go wrong. You talk about like judge controversy, too. Like 1 decimal of a point of a judgment could change everything.
He lost 2 fights. One of the fights, the first fight that he lost, was really from decision. The second one, he got knocked out by Matt Serra, and then he avenged it and he kicked the living you-know-what out of Matt Serra. So, and nobody even remembers what Matt Serra did to him because of what he did to Matt Serra. So, I mean, honestly, GSP also won 2 belts in 2 different divisions because he won the middleweight division too. I think, was it? No, he won the light heavyweight against Michael Bisping.
Okay.
So I think it was 205 or 185. It was either, I think it might have been the middleweight. I think it was the middleweight at 185. He fought Michael Bisping, but he beat Michael Bisping, I remember. And he did win 2 titles in 2 different divisions, just like Conor McGregor. So when Conor says, oh, I'm the only one no, you aren't.
No, you're not.
So there you go.
He's the only one that runs his mouth, though.
Roger Federer. Federer has won 22 major championships, tied for most all time. Federer has a career match record of 1,251 and 275 and has won 103 titles, second most in the Open era. Federer has been the number 1 player in the world for 310 weeks in his career and at one point 237 consecutive weeks. Federer became the first player to win 20 majors in his career and the oldest player to hold a world number one ranking. Federer also won 8 titles in doubles and has 1 gold Olympic medal in doubles and 1 silver Olympic medal in singles. So honestly, you want to say Jokic, you want to say him, you want to say Pete Sampras, you can argue he's amongst the top 3 greatest tennis players in the men's division. Jokic. Was it Jokic? Djokovic. I'm sorry. Djokovic is the guy that just broke his record just recently. Again, you can argue, and really, Djokovic still has a couple more years left, so he can, 2-3 years down the road, we'll probably say Djokovic is the greatest tennis player of all time. But right now, I would still say Roger Federer, because of what he did consecutively and 310 weeks in his career. I think that's the most ever. So
yeah. And again, he also did it in a tougher, when he started as a younger player, it was a much tougher era with tennis than what Djokovic is dealing with right now, too. And I think that really helps when you have those really classic competitions.
You're playing Nadal at the top of his game.
Yeah, Nadal at the top of his game. Guys, really good tennis players in the 90s and early 2000s when they were in their prime, or even at the end, like when they were more seasoned veterans, too. And Federer took it to them right away, too. And holding it that long still is very impressive and shows some longevity as well.
Who do you got?
I got Federer here.
I got GSP.
All right.
And I really like GSP in this combination just because, and listen, George St. Pierre, if you don't watch and you're not entwined in the UFC and combat sports, you wouldn't know how good GSP really is. So he was a fantastic fighter, and some people could argue he's the greatest fighter of all time. I could argue that, but he beat a lot of good competition. As a matter of fact, he went through the welterweight division against Matt Hughes. He beat Matt Hughes multiple times. I think Matt Hughes was the one that gave him his first loss, and then he beat Matt Hughes twice. So Matt Hughes gave him his first loss, and then he beat him twice, back-to-back times. And then he lost against Matt Serra, and then he fought Matt Serra again, and he kicked the living daylights out of him. So Matt Serra was the only one to knock him out and knock him down. So there you go. Yeah. All right. The next combination. Deion Sanders, the number 9 seed versus the number 1 seed, Michael Jordan. Deion was an 8-time Pro Bowl player, 6-time All-Pro player, 2-time Super Bowl champion, and won a Defensive Player of the Year in 1994. Sanders had 7 different seasons where he had a target less than 10 times all season and had 2 or more interceptions in all of those seasons. Sanders only had 4 seasons in his career where he allowed a catch rating of 50% when he was targeted. Sanders had 53 interceptions in his career, tied for 12th all-time among cornerbacks. Deion Sanders also played 9 seasons in the MLB where he hit 263, 39 home runs, 168 RBIs, and 186 stolen bases, and a base percentage of .319. Sanders played both baseball and football in the same season every year from 1989 to 1995. One of the greatest athletes, all-around athletes of this era and probably all time. Thank God he hasn't lost his foot. I mean, there were stories coming out that he could have lost his foot again. He's been dealing with a lot of foot problems and I think diabetes. Does he have diabetes?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of problems, but Deion Sanders is just a fantastic talent. So, one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, we talk about like the greatest just raw athletes too, just in terms of pure talent and athleticism too. To go along that, there's not many guys that can play multiple sports like that and play multiple sports at the same time in their career too. Baseball season is a long season, yet you have a long football off season to try to get your body recovered too, and he still played both of them at a high level. Now Sanders is obviously not going to have the same leverage in baseball as he did in football, but in football those are just some insane numbers at the corner position.
The number 1 seed, Michael Air Jordan. Michael Jordan was a 14-time All-Star, 10-time All-NBA first team, 9-time Defensive Player of the Year, 10-time scoring champion, 5-time MVP. Jordan won 6 championships and was NBA Finals MVP 6 of them and never needed a Game 7 to win any of those titles. Jordan was an Associated Press Athlete of the Year in 91 to 93. Jordan also won a national championship in 1982 with North Carolina and 2 Olympic gold medals in 1984 and a 92 Dream Team. Jordan averaged 30.1 points per game, 6.2 rebounds per game, and 5.3 per game in his career in the regular season. His average in the playoffs, 33.4 per game, 6.4 rebounds per game, and 5.7 assists per game in the playoffs. Michael Jordan is the greatest athlete to ever play any sport. And I don't care what anybody says. Basketball, hockey, baseball, football. Nobody was better than this guy in his sport at any point. He was that good. He was not only the greatest athlete of this era, he is one of the greatest salesmen of this era, making and negotiating a deal with his mom, which made him the first athlete in professional sports history to make any kind of money off of any apparel that was sold with his name on it. And that's why he makes $40-something million a year just off of that. Greatest player of all time.
And most intimidating too. You don't have to go up against that guy when he's mad and when he's sick and he's playing with the flu.
People could hate him. He couldn't care less.
I know.
His own teammates hated him.
His own teammates are still taking shots at him now. Forget Scottie Pippen. But yeah, even so, like he still put up with all those personalities.
Luke
too.
Longley couldn't stand him. There was a lot of people. Horace Grant wasn't really fond of him. Nobody was fond of him. I mean, Steve Kerr was. They have a good relationship, but there were players on his team that could not stand him.
Right. But think about that, like toxic of a culture too, and for a player to still play at that high of a level for that long in the NBA too, with all the drama that they had there, all the stuff that was mentioned in The Last Dance with Jerry Krause and all that, it's just insane. So yeah, it's hard not to pick Michael Jordan here.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Jordan will advance. We'll find out if GSP or Roger Federer advances to the next round. But honestly, it's going to be very, very hard to knock off Michael Jordan. Maybe there could be, and it looks like Tom Brady was eliminated. So it seems like he was eliminated by the fans, right?
No, there's still time in that poll. Hank Aaron is in the lead right now. But still time. Muhammad Ali and LeBron last week. Muhammad Ali still in the lead right now. Both those polls were tied at the end of their respective weeks, so we'll still have to wait on those.
So we'll see. There we go. And who do we have on tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 9:30, we will have Dave Benz, who last time we had him on the show, he was with the Minnesota Timberwolves as their broadcaster. He's now doing some freelance stuff. He's not with the team anymore, but he'll be on at 9:30. And at 10 o'clock, we will have Trent Sieg, who was a long snapper with the Raiders. Now he's with the Dallas Cowboys. He's played the last 5 years with the Raiders, now signed on as a free agent with Dallas.
Thank you, obviously, at 8 o'clock for joining us. Our friend from thejumpball.net, Mo Dakhil. He was very, very good. Really was a great interview. He was fantastic. And thank you for joining us for 50 minutes as we couldn't have Cameron McDonald, a Packers rookie tight end that they picked up undrafted, who could make the team this year. And I definitely have some questions for him. Jordan Love, I mean, he was there doing some work with him on OTAs, or, not mandatory OTAs, but he was there, and I'm sure he was catching some passes from our friend Jordan Love. I want to know what his thoughts with Jordan Love is, and where does he think the Packers could go this year? And maybe he makes the team. So we'll see. So I want to apologize for all the fans if we don't have Cameron McDonald. We didn't have Cameron McDonald on the show, and hopefully very, very soon we will have him on the show. So great show, Speedy. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. as we have great content and great guests coming up tomorrow. Until then, this is Errol Marks and Speedy Petey saying good night, and we will talk to you tomorrow. I hate you tomorrow. Good night.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the senior